Ooh, that looks tasty. Support for Boards and Brews comes from Sovereignty. Play board games in a 3D environment on any device. Play smarter. Welcome, folks. Today, the Hungry Gamer is back with another episode of Boards and Brews, and today I am joined again, or as he would say, again, by Don Baggett of the Secret Cabal. And as a second time on, we get to skip most of the rapid fire questions, but just in case anybody's been living under a rock or in your hometown, who the crap are you, and what is your brewed beverage today?
Right. So I'm Don Baggett. I am a host of the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast, one of 5 hosts. It's a podcast that's been going steady and strong for about 10 years. We've taken a small hiatus because of a slight medical emergency we'll talk about in a bit. But anyway, that's my brand, the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. As for what I'm drinking, so today is a very special day because I am drinking something called Doubles. And if you look at that, that is imagery from the Big Lebowski. I got this from a local brewery called Jailbreak, which Will, you have actually been out, right? You visited the East Coast and we went to this place to play some games together.
Yeah, it was really cool. The all the tables look like the bowling lanes, and yeah,
Yeah.
great stuff. I can't. I think I went home with a 6 pack of Special Lady Friend, I think.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites, man. So anyway, this is doubles. Of course, the suggestion being the doubles, right? Doubles bowling, which is featured so prominently in the Big Lebowski. We got to watch out though, because it's called doubles because it's a double IPA. So if this conversation goes very long, it might devolve exponentially. So
Well, that's all right, 'cause
anyway, that's what I'm drinking.
we have a nice sponsor bump in the middle where you can go get
Oh man,
another can if you need it.
that's dangerous. That's very dangerous, Will.
I'm a fan of this, so I have my usual Fort Point Kolsch KSA in this lovely glass that Mark Dainty from Not Board Gaming actually sent me from England. So this is an
Really?
official England pint glass or whatever you call it. I don't know. And after he sent it, because he bought 6, I was like, "Oh, those are so cool." He's like, "Ah, I only need 4. I'll send you 2." And after he's like, I could have just bought you some from someplace nearby for a lot cheaper than mailing these dumb things. But
But it
there
wouldn't
we
have
are.
been nearly as authentic
No, I don't
as
think it would have worked as
Mark
well.
sent it. Mark's a
Mm,
good guy. That's a good gift. I like Mark.
yeah. He's you are now one of 3 repeat hosts that we've had.
Oh, very cool. I feel
So
rarefied air that I'm in here.
yeah, you weren't quite rarefied to join the 3 idiots special podcast, but someday you'll be dumb enough to join us
All
in
right,
that.
thanks. I appreciate it. I'm trying to work my way up or
Mm,
down to it.
yeah. But so so everybody, so today we're going to talk a little bit about what we've been playing lately, and I'm not going to lie, it's a big old list
Yeah.
of what we've been playing lately. As I was telling Don just before we started, uh, my buddy Kevin, you may know him as Canadian Kev. He does voiceover for me sometimes. Anytime it's like a particularly poetic voiceover, it's something that he came up with. And anytime it's just something stupid, fart jokes, it was me. But he was out for 3 weeks, and I told Don we actually played almost 40 different games and had about 40 different, sit down play sessions. So it's a whole bunch of stuff that I played. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk about all of them. And Don's been kind of jonesing to talk about some games for a while. So he's got a big old list too. So strap in. We got a whole bunch. So we'll kind of bounce back and forth. Don, looks like your list is a little bit bigger than mine. So I'll let you get started.
Sure. So the first thing on my list, and this is the one that I've played the farthest back, is Unsettled. This is a co-op game that is from Orange Nebula, and they did Vindication. So this is sort of the latest, I believe, game in their line. And this
And
is a
and I'll say
very
Vindication,
yes.
I just got this the other day. So, and I haven't opened it other than to organize it. But so
Well, I
yes,
got mine months ago. I opened mine and got it organized. I don't think I've been able to play that one yet, though, because of, zombie apocalypse, all this stuff going on.
but yeah, so
Uh,
unsettled. What is
Yeah,
this?
Unsettled is one of these things where you are you're all explorers and you get pulled through a wormhole and you're dumped on some planet. And there are actually 6 different boxes, 2 of which comes in the core box and 4 of which are sort of expansion boxes. And you have your 4 scientists, right? All the military people
But you
got
didn't go
killed in
all in,
this.
right? You didn't get all of it. You wouldn't do
Yes.
that, right?
No, no, no. Yes, I did. So so in fact I missed this Kickstarter and luckily my friendly local game store games and stuff here in the Baltimore Washington corridor, they get a variety of Kickstarters and sell them retail. And I found this one all in retail there, so I picked it up.
I can only
Anyway, it's
assume
very
that
cool.
they follow you on Kickstarter, and if there's anyone that you don't back, like, oh, let's get in on this.
So the funny thing is, they do follow me, and I follow the owner. I've been friends with him for a long, long time. So yeah, he gets to see all the stuff. Unfortunately, that I'm picking up off Kickstarter. Um, hopefully it helps him out a little bit. I still go there because it's a great business. I want to give I want to support local business as much as I can, as I did with this purchase of Unsettled. And so you have your four explorers, scientists, and each one of these planets has a different sort of puzzle to figure out, a different theme going with it. You have the same base number of actions you can do, with a few sort of um, planet specific actions. But for the most part, you are using, we're not gonna call them dice. I can't remember what they call them, some kind of cubes, but they're dice, right? And you rotate them, and it's sort of an action resource system. And it's all cooperative because you'll have a sequence of three tasks you've got to get done. Um, and those tasks are also planet specific. The anomalies you encounter are planet specific. And for each of the six planets, there are three different sets of three tasks each. So a lot of replayability, especially if you pick up those expansion boxes. And this game is
And
just
you
so
got to solve
good.
the puzzle on all the planets or just one?
So any given game is just one puzzle on one planet, and there are three sort of puzzles on each planet, and there are six planets. So do the math, right? You're talking 18 sort of sub games that you can play here, each of which have three tasks within each of those games. So a lot of replayability, and these planets are very different. The very first planet you play on is a planet that's it's a fungal planet, and so your tasks are to sort of set up labs to go get food, then to escape when things go south, and meanwhile you're trying not to be inhabited by the fungal hosts. But the funny thing is, if you're inhabited by the fungal hosts, it's good and bad because suddenly things that would have been dangerous to you on the planet are no longer dangerous because they recognize you as a fungal host, that kind of thing. A lot of good tongue-in-cheek humor. As I mentioned on our podcast a few weeks ago, one of the tasks, for instance, is named "Welcome to the Fungal." And it's that kind of tongue-in-cheek type stuff. And it says there's a little token that has your face on it. Your player's face. You have like 19 to choose from, and it says choose this carefully because it'll be the last face that your friends see before they die a horrible death on whatever planet you're landing on. So
Okay.
everything's tongue in cheek. Very good game though. For your listeners, if they can check it out, I would suggest they do. Pretty good game.
Yeah, my other Don, as we've been talking about, who actually I'm going to go up and see him tomorrow. Actually, designer of Backyard Chickens. He has it and has been sitting there. He loaned it out to somebody, and he was just waiting for him to give it back. So a whole bunch were supposed to go kind of check it out. And the thing that I actually listened to that podcast. I forgot I'd listened
Hmm.
to that podcast. The thing that kind of grabbed me a little bit is, we talked about Vindication. The knock on Vindication, the reason I avoided it for so long is, I mean, it's got a theme, and then you
Yeah,
play the game.
yeah.
Like,
It's pretty abstract.
and but it sounds like the theme's a little more integrated into this one, so it's got me.
I think that's the main difference. Yeah, and I feel the theme in this game in a way that I didn't in Vindication, and I like Vindication a lot. Right?
And you too have been a fungal host, so you know what that
Yeah,
means.
exactly. It's art imitating life. Will.
You didn't want to. Did I just put out there that you were the inspiration for the fungal planet?
That's right. Well, if I am, I'm not getting the residual, so I need to be doing that.
Yeah, you need to jump on. All right, so that is unsettled. This one, boy, people were really frothing at the mouth when this thing showed up. I don't know, however many months ago. Like, you couldn't open Facebook without seeing six people showing their pictures of Unsettled. It's kind of died away a little bit. I'll be curious if it's has the staying power, because I
Yeah.
feel like Vindication's had a pretty decent staying power.
Mhm.
Despite the lack of any recognizable theme. But the gameplay for that's supposed to be so good. So I finally picked it up. I actually had about, it turned out to be 2 boxes of games that I wasn't playing. Nobody really wanted to buy, so I just sent them off to one of those places I'll buy games, kind of like GameStop, real
Yeah.
cheap. I turned 2 boxes of games into one Vindication.
Right.
So
That's how it
yeah,
goes.
I felt pretty good about it because I got all that space back, right?
Yeah. Hey, don't I know it?
Yeah, I see you have a big tapestry up behind you to cover your shame.
That's right. There's plenty of games under that, and plenty of games all the way down that Cadillacs wall. So
But so my first one I've been playing, and like I said, we played 40 different games, but this is one of the ones that I wanted to take back out the most, and that is Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. And after I finally played it again, I sent you a message. Did you get this thing? You should get it. You're like, yeah, I got it. I could just feel the disdain just dripping out of you. Of course, I got this. But this is a 4X co-op 4X, which had me going because I enjoy a 4X game, but it's a long game. Those are long
Yeah.
games to get beat, and I usually get beat. But at least this way, we all did do it together. And I will say I've still been beat every single time. I still haven't won. But
It's a hard one. It's a hard game.
it's the last time we were playing. Like we were going through, and well, it's a 4X co-op, and so what's happening is each player has their own race, different powers, different types of units, and you're fighting against the chaos and the empire, and they'll also fight each other. Which is one of the real cool things about that game is if you play the game well, which we finally figured out is oh no, we need to be moving our units around so it chases us, and then the two bad guys will run into each other. But of course, if you do, they get points for killing each other too. So there's this thing you got these two uh, factions that are the bad guys running around with their own little AIs, and you're building your stuff up, you're exploring all that 4X stuff. But at the end of the game, as long as all of you have more points than all of these other factions, you will win. And they've done a cool job of making it where you can mess around with the difficulty. And one of the ways is each of the 4 turns, if you play a full game, you have a different event that comes out, different chapter event. And in theory, you go chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, but they get harder and harder. And so the last time we were playing, we were feeling okay. Then we flipped over the first chapter 2 card, and we're like, oh, that's not good.
Right.
And one of the people who was playing, he just got wiped off the map. And then we're looking at this upside down chapter 3, and we're like, do we really want to do that? I don't think we was like, oh, everybody look over there. No, it was always another chapter 1 right there.
That's right. Yeah.
And then we got there, we're like, okay, do we want to go to we did really well. And then we want to go to chapter 4. I'm like, no, chapter 1 again. But it's one of the fun things is that you can very easily change the difficulty. Now, I will say we still lost that.
Yeah.
So with our 3 chapter 1s and 1 chapter 2, we still had one person who was like 2 points behind. But it's so much fun. I mean, it's super swingy, right? Because
It
there's
is
so many
super
dice.
swingy. If there's a criticism, I think that's the one.
Yeah,
It's
I
super
mean,
swingy, but it tells a cool game, and there's so many cool characters from both of those factions and your factions that come into play because they all play very differently.
and each of the hero factions has 2 different main heroes that you can play, which are different abilities and different. Because every turn you get new abilities that they can do, and you get to choose from. I think it's 10 of them. You're going to wind up getting maybe 5,
Yeah,
maybe 6, depending on what things you buy from the market and stuff. But those are all really different. And I assume you got the expansion,
I did get the expansion.
which
Yes.
which comes with 4 more, and the 4 that come in the expansion box have all kinds of unique mechanics.
Yeah.
Like they are completely different. I don't know if you've experienced any of those
I
yet.
haven't played with them yet because the first time I played, I played it solo, but with 2 factions against, both of the factions in the, the AI controlled factions. And I was beat down so brutally both times I tried that I realized that the hate this game was trying to unleash on me really was not intended to be unleashed on one person. I needed somebody there to take this, whooping with me. And so I haven't broken it out yet, but I will.
Oh yeah, you got to bust it. Just bust it out. Chain. Just do 4 chapter 1s.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
would still probably lose. It is a brutally difficult
Yes.
game, but
Yeah.
that's part of the draw of this game, right?
And but one of the other things I find, and I mean, you can't ignore the dice swinginess. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
You get different colors of dice depending on your units, which is part of the fun. You got to pick what units you put out there because they're going to have a different colored die, which might be more defense, it might be more magic power or whatever it is. But there's blanks on those things,
a
and the
lot of
bad
blanks. It
guys,
seems like.
and the bad guys get a lot of dice too, and they come out and they're super intimidating because they have all these dice. But of course, if you don't fight them, they get stronger every single round. So you have to just kind of throw your troops at them and hope it goes well. And what I have heard is a rumor, unconfirmed, is that they're working on it on another a reprint and expansion, and the expansion is going to come with a good bit of dice mitigation.
Ah, yeah, that'll be a good change, I think.
Is the rumor that I've heard. Now, for me, I don't. I love my chaos, and I am perfectly happy to throw 12 dice and get all blanks and be like, wow, I'm a horrible leader. But just for that one moment when the bad guys do it too, or I throw them, you get the huge hit. So I'm okay with that, but I do understand why some people get on it. But let me tell you, I really like. I keep looking up. It's just in the corner out of sight.
Yeah,
Keep looking at it. I really, really like this one, and it's got these really cool acrylic standees,
yeah,
which does two things. One, it makes it a little bit cheaper, but two, it means the box isn't so big,
yeah.
which
And it highlights the artwork in a way that minis can't, right? The
yep,
artwork is really good, and those acrylic standees make it pop. Uh, it's sometimes a little hard to see when you got things stacked up in a hex or whatever to
yep.
see exactly what's going on. But it's a little bit of a trade off, and you get some really beautiful standees out of it.
Yeah, it really does look good. Now, the only big thing I have with the production, I'm the only person I know who said this. I really don't like how the cards feel.
Really, hmm.
Like I find they stick, and I do not sleeve stuff.
Yeah, I sleeved mine, so they feel just like any other cards to me.
Yep. Well, this one I did. I took them out and I was organizing, and I was people who are just listening. You can't see this, but I was like suddenly I was like feeling my hands. I was like, what is happening here? I don't like this. And took my buddy Kevin. We went to a store. I was like, we're getting sleeves right now. And then we spent 2 hours sleeving the dumb thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is definitely the kind of game that after you sleeve it, you feel like you did some work.
yeah, but I feel so much better now. I'm like, this is nice. But that said, like they're thick. They're thick cards. I just don't like the finish on them. But no one else has complained about it, so I think it's just me. But whatever. All right, so that's my first one I've been playing a lot, and I've been thinking about constantly. Uprising. What's your next one?
So I have been playing a game called Beast, and I don't know if you've talked about this. We talked about it on our podcast. I think you did a preview for it? Is that
Yeah,
correct? Yeah.
I did a preview for it, and then I heard you talking about it, and I was like, "Hey Don, you want
Man,
a copy of Beast?"
yes. I knew you'd sent it to me, so I was like, I think he's done a
Yeah,
video
I,
here.
I
So
I was like,
yeah,
"You want this thing?" And let me tell you, if you want to, Don, I send a message. It'll be a few hours usually. I heard back like instantly.
yeah, I was really excited. Yeah, Beast is because I'm a huge fan of hidden movement games, and so that does two things. First of all, any hidden movement game that pops on the radar, I'm immediately intrigued by. But there's also a high bar to reach because I expect so much. And I will say that Beast exceeded that bar for me because not only is it a great hidden movement game, there's an aspect of card drafting between the Beast player and the Settler player, player or players that's really intriguing because each card's got something that the the humans can do, and it's got something the beast can do. So when you're drafting, it's like, oh man, it's really a choice of what do you give that other side. And similar to Inish from a few years ago, it's the same cards every time. So you know what capabilities are out there. It's not like there's going to be some, big unknown of what can be done. You can look
Yeah, it's
down
not
your
like
hand and go,
Blood Rage, where you get
right,
the new set of cards, which is going to kind of change what's happening. So for the
you know
the
what's coming, right?
yeah,
And there's only so many opportunities to attack, so many opportunities to move, depending on the cards that are out there. And I was very surprised because once the hunt was on in that game, I played the beast because so once the hunt was on in that game, it's like they always had your scent, they always had your track, and they're so close. And it really is one of those games reminded me of Spectre Ops a little bit in this regard. Like there are these small decisions that are huge turning points in the game, but you never feel like you lost them, and they never feel like you know they completely lost you. It's just this perfect balance throughout. I really enjoyed this game, and
and
there are I think four beasts in the base box. I hope I
yeah,
didn't get
I
that number
think
wrong.
maybe in the Kickstarter, I think they unlocked one more. I think there's five.
Oh man, that's
I
because I've
could be
only played
wrong.
one and it was so well done. I just picked one randomly and it was the swamp-based monster. I can't remember the name of the monster, but there are thematic things you can do with that monster. And there are thematic things you can do with all the other monsters because they also have these little sub monsters, these minions running around that do particular things and can get powers. And throughout the game, you build up different powers for your beast and for your minions. It was so good.
Yeah, one of the neat things is you talk about the different powers that you get is each of the beasts has a different land type that it's kind of associated with. And when it gets, if it's hidden on these different land types, it can do other things. And one of the things I did find was really satisfying about it is when you do trick the humans and they go the wrong way,
Oh,
boy, that's a great feeling.
yes.
That is really clever. So people who don't know, you actually rarely put your beast standee on the board. You put down little cards where, so you know where you started, and your track. You put down cards that say, you want south, you want east, you want west, whatever it is, and the players are moving around trying to suss out where you are and trying to figure it out. And then if they think they have you, they play the cards that's a search and attack or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you're there, you get hurt. And the thing that it's a hidden movement game, right? But the thing that actually I like the most about it, and what I don't like about a lot of hidden movement games, it's fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's 90 minutes. I bet once you know what you're doing, I bet you can play that game in an hour.
Yeah.
And I
And
guess
and in that hour, you get the full sort of it scratches that full hidden movement game itch that for many other games, I think in terms like Fear of Dracula, no one would say that's a short game. It scratches that itch. Spectre Ops is a pretty quick game for what it is, but this is maybe the quickest of all of them. But I got to be honest. I'd read other people saying this may be my favorite hidden movement game, and I thought, come on, man, that's a high bar. I'm going to withhold judgment until I receive the final copy, but I could easily see this becoming my favorite hidden movement game. It is really good.
yeah, I think the way that the different heroes you can play, that they're not hugely different, but they're different enough that it feels different in the way you can choose. You can set traps out, and it's different every time. I compare it to mind management,
Yeah,
which I actually I
another
just
great
played.
game.
Yeah, I just played that the other day, and what again I think it makes that one work is it's fast. Like I don't have time in my brain to play a 3 hour hidden movement game.
Yeah, I do, but I can because I love so much, but I can see the draw from having it be much shorter. And if I can get another game play, if I could play Beast and another game in that time, that's even
Yep.
better.
I mean, you could have a whole day, and you could say we're going to play all the beasts, and you could do
Oh
that.
man, that would be crazy.
You could do
I'll tell
that
you another
between breakfast and lunch.
another distinct. That's right. Maybe not that quick. I'll tell you another
Well, if you
distinction
play
between.
against me, it is that quick because I'm real bad. I'm real bad.
So in most hidden movement games, I want to play the one, right? The one that's being hunted, or sort of the one that's tracking their movement in a hidden manner. And in this game, after that first game, I thought I would not mind playing either side of this because the story that's playing out, the 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 teamwork and partnership amongst the settler players, that was very, that's something I felt like I'd missed out on. They seem to be having a good time with that. Don't get me wrong, I was having an extremely good time with the beast, but I'd be happy to play either side of that.
Yeah, I think then I said this about mind management also. Even though you can play with your beast, and I think it's four other players. I don't think I'd ever want to do that.
Hmm.
I think playing against four hunters, cool, but if you have through each hunter's only got one hunter, there's a lot of kind of downtime. I think
Hmm.
in there. But like I
That's
said,
a good
that's the
point.
same thing about mind management. But I think you play mind management with two people, or two people as the people on the board, where they're each controlling two. I think that's great because you get
Yeah,
all
yeah.
that kind of crunchy strategy and all in there, but you're not a ton of downtime. So yeah, I enjoyed it too. I found it really hard for the humans.
Oh,
Um,
really? Yeah.
yeah, and it might just be that it's not a type of game that hits my table very much, so none of us are particularly good at it, and there's a little bit of floundering going on. But you play a lot of them, so your reaction makes it sound like
Hey,
perhaps it's not. It's
yeah.
not as hard that we were just
It
bad.
it was very close. It was very close, and I would like to think I'm pretty good at the hidden movement games. And I think the game drives it to be close, but not in an artificial way. And I know that sounds odd, but I think it really does speak to what a great design it is. I mean, we'll see once I get all the beasts played and play as all the settlers eventually, months and months from now. But man, first impression really really positive for this game.
Yeah, it was fun. The only other complaint I have about it is, boy, it takes a long time to set up. You got
Yeah,
a
I set it up ahead of
thousand
time, so
little animal meeples that you're putting out on that board,
yeah.
and
I knew I was playing the beast, so I was like, it's almost like I was getting my plate ready for Thanksgiving, Will. It's like I knew all these animals were going out there, and I was going to eat most of them. It was great.
That's probably the most Alabama thing you have said in months. All these animals are on my plate.
That's right.
All right, so my number two that I would talk about, I played a lot. This is a game that had it my copy shown up in October or something, probably would have made my games of the year list last year. It didn't get here in time. That's called Dice Command, and that is a two-player game. It's, I guess in theory it's World War II, but you don't really get that. It's just a war because each of your units are dice, so you're putting out there, which for me is great. I don't like playing historical games because I feel kind of icky. Like I don't want to be the
Right.
Nazis. Like what if I
Yeah.
win? That's not good.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? But it's a very fast game where you each, depending on what numbers on the die that you put out there, it's a different kind of unit. 1 through 3 is a light infantry, which means it can't hurt vehicles, but it moves twice as fast. 4 through 6 is a heavy infantry, it moves slower, but it can hurt vehicles. And if you get them stacked up on top of each other, meaning you roll doubles, then it's a vehicle, which is much harder to kill and takes more damage or whatever. Then in the middle of the board, it's got two spaces. If you control these two spaces, you get some kind of special power. It's a sniper tower where you can shoot people, or it might be a research lab. And every different game, each player is going to pick one of each of these. I think there's like 10 different options that you put out there. But you're trying to be the first one to get 6 of your units or four of your units behind enemy lines. And it's super, super simple because you're going to roll all your dice and you have 4 different actions you can take, which are get more money, get more troops, deploy your troops, or do some research. And if you do the research, you're going to be upgrading those, core abilities, getting new bonuses you can have. You're going to be spending your money to bring out troops because every time one of your dice gets killed, it's out of the game because it's dead. You got to go, recruit some other poor kid, to come out
That's
and
right.
fight for you. But it's super fast. Combat's easy. You run your dice into each other. If I run my 4 into your 6, you become a 2, and I'm out of the game. And
Okay.
that's it. You just
Oh,
run.
so there's no randomness in the combat then.
Nope. It is
Ah, it's
totally
interesting.
deterministic. You see what you have out there, and you're moving them about. And then there's a deck of cards that is a little river that kind of cycles through. So if you don't want to use your dice that you've rolled on the cards that you have, with your advancing or deploying or whatever, those are special powers are always going to change. So it might be you can put a minefield out. It might be you're going to use the flamethrower, which is going to take 2 pips off of anything, you know, in the 3 squares in front of you, or whatever it is. And this game is great. It is one of the top, I'm going to say top 2 player games that I have. I'm actually going to talk about the other one a little bit
Wow.
later. It is fantastic, and the whole thing, this is great radio here, is like this big. And we're talking half of a Ticket to Ride box, maybe probably a third of that, and maybe I don't know, 2 inches thick. It is
Really small
just,
for what you get in the box. Oh, that's cool.
oh yeah, the box it's heavy. It's
And
oddly
are
heavy.
you are you using the box itself? I'm looking at some images on Board Game Geek, and it looks like maybe you use the bottom of the box for dice placement or something.
Yeah, so the inside the box where you put all the components, there are 2 little boxes that when you open up, they look like barracks on the inside.
Hmm.
Those are dice trays. So you roll your dice in there, and then you just leave them in there, and anything in your little barracks is what you can use for that turn. And so it uses that. There also is some 4-player variants and 3-player variants, and it comes with the stuff for it. But I've never actually played it that way because zombie apocalypse.
Right.
Boy, I don't know if it's available here or not, but it's good.
I'll
Yeah,
have
there's
to
no
check it
solo
out.
for it, but boy, it is really good. And there's an amazing how to play by this dude I know.
Oh, really? Oh man,
Yeah, me, obviously.
the expert.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I made the how to play for it back during the campaign and promptly forgot all about it. And then I've got a copy, after all the Kickstarters that had delivered, and I was like, how do I play this game? I don't know what I'm doing. But like I took it to meet with a buddy of mine. We met for coffee just, random place, and it's small enough, compact enough that we were able to have coffee, put it on the table in front of us, and just play. Just it's fantastic.
Those are the best kind of two-player games. That's cool.
So anyway, that's Dice Command. I think it's great. It's we Kevin and I we played that. I don't know. I think maybe 4 or 5 times over the past 3 weeks.
And while you were chatting about it, tell me about it. Look, the publisher there is Ejected Planet, and sure enough, it's available on their website. So you said you didn't know if it was available. It is, but it may be purchased by the time you guys get there if there's only one copy available.
Ooh, boy,
You're
I
bad for
hope
me, Will.
I hope that your phone starts blowing up as oh, it's not a Kickstarter, so it's all
No,
your
people won't see it, man. It's all under the radar.
because that would be great. I know that they're Chris and Tony are just sitting somewhere going, oh, I smell Junkie Don.
That's right. It's a disturbance of the force. They can just
You can
they can
feel it.
just sense it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but anybody like go if you like 2 player. I mean, it's really aggressive. I mean, it's pure
Looks
aggression
like it
game.
looks like the iconography and art is really good too. It looked like it was really well laid out. So
Yeah,
I'm interested to
and
play
if you
this.
have a 3D printer, supposedly they have STL files where you can print little tank looking things that you can drop when you put out your vehicles. You can drop
Yeah,
the 2 dice in the top. I mean, it's a great game. I
like it's
can't,
well
and I
done.
don't think it's that expensive either.
The what I'm looking at, I don't know. This is the Kickstarter edition. Still, the Kickstarter edition they're selling on their website is $45. So even that's
Oh,
under
that's a great
50. So
yeah. Snap that up. Yeah, the Kickstarter comes with variable player powers.
oh, very cool.
Just real quick, real easy. Yeah,
Well, as soon as
great.
we're done recording here, I'll start spending money I don't have on things I don't need.
Oh, hey, that's the dream, right? Now, well, on that note, now you got two others on your list of stuff that you've been playing lately, but to potentially make me spend some money, tell me about your expansion that you've been playing lately.
Yeah. So just a few days ago, actually, I played Lost Ruins of Arnak with the Expedition Leaders expansion, um, and this is a very cool expansion because it's more of the same. It comes with a variety of things. I'm sure I'm going to leave something out there. There are cards that you add to the item deck and the artifact deck. And for those who haven't played Lost Ruins of Arnak, all both of you, uh, this is a this is a game where
And
you
I am not one anymore because I just finally played it last night for the
and I want to
first
hear
time.
about your experience. Yeah.
And we had
So
such a good time. We played it twice in a row.
yes, and it's relatively quick, right? It's one of those games where it doesn't overstay its welcome. It is like the perfect length to get the itch scratch for the deck builder slash worker placement hybrid that it is, right? And there are very few games I think that do that well. There was this and Dune Imperium that came out around the same time. Those two games are often compared to one another because they both have that deck building and worker placement
And
aspect to it.
Endless Winter, which is on its way.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, and that
So
was kickstarted at like also like the exact
at
same
the
time.
same time, yeah.
Yep.
So the cool thing about this game is that neither one of those two aspects overwhelm the game. So there's a deck building aspect where you can get items and artifacts, and the the amount of items available to you and the amount of artifacts changes throughout the game as you, in an abstract manner, explore this island. Right, the number of items that you can purchase goes down with your gold, and the number of artifacts that you're finding or can find kind of goes up as the game moves forward. It's kind of cool how that's a game time tracker as well. And basically, what you do is almost like a deck builder where you play a card and do whatever that card says in your turn, or you can place one of your workers somewhere to do something, one of your explorers. And usually, you have to play a card with that as well because the cards are dual use and they do something at the bottom. And they also have icons on the top left that tell you what type of travel they will allow on that bigger board. And when traveling, you can either go there and do that action, or there are some spaces that are unrevealed you can go to explore new spaces. So that's the base game of Arnak for the most part. It goes through 5 rounds of that, so it's not like you cycle through your deck 20 times.
And
Um,
I will say, both times we played, we got to finish last turn. I was like, but I want one more turn.
yeah, that's always the case. It's always the case. Now that does get amplified a bit with the expansion I found because with the expansion, one of the options they have here is you can have a different research track too. In fact,
Mm.
so it comes with new cards that go in those items and artifact decks. It comes with a new double-sided research board that you can use, and it comes with I hope I don't get this number wrong. I think it comes with six leaders, and those leaders change what you're good at and what you can do. And they add a little bit of asymmetry amongst the players because in the base game there's no asymmetry, right? You're doing the same thing all the other characters doing. You start with the same deck of cards everyone else starts with, which are four, um, which are two fear cards, which are semi useless. You don't like them; they clog up your deck a bit. So you want to get rid of that fear if you can, thematically speaking as well. And you have four cards that give you money or compasses to help you explore that type of thing. So you have those four cards and two fear cards. With the expansion, each of those six leaders comes with their own starting deck of four cards that you augment by two fear cards. So you're starting from an asymmetric starting point, and further, there are new actions you can do for each character. Like for instance, I played the I can't remember his name. Anyway, he gets a third archaeologist or explorer. So I had three workers that I could use, and further there was a
Oh,
space on my
everybody at the table hated you.
no, that's the easiest of all of them. The guy I was playing against, my buddy Shannon, he was the falconer, and so he had a falcon token that was moving up his board. And on any given turn, he could choose to let the falcon fly further, or he could retrieve what the falcon was getting. And the rewards going up this track were stronger and stronger every time. And he had an action where he could play cards to make the falcon go up higher. So he can sort of speed up how he's getting things back. So each of those characters very asymmetric. Now we did find that if you use one of the advanced research boards, they can be very hard to kind of go up. I don't know what your experience was like last night, but moving up that research track can be very powerful. You get a lot of powerful stuff. You get money compasses, you get artifacts, or you get helpers that you can tap to give you certain things. Sorry, exhaust. I don't want to get in any trouble. So that you can exhaust to get you certain things. It
Yeah,
was much harder to move up on the track in
Wizards
the
of the
expansion.
Coast is at your door right now.
That's right. Is that what those
They're
sirens are?
taking your family away.
Now, it was good because of the variety and the asymmetry, right? It added a nice jolt of energy to this game. But that research track was extremely hard to move up, both for me and my opponent. And we felt like we couldn't get the engine going like we felt like we did in the base game. I know you posted some picture last night. Your final turn, you played like 837 cards.
It was an amazing. Well, and what's interesting, so I was able to do that because of the research track, and so also because I thought I had one more turn, so I had saved up a bunch of compasses because I was gonna
Mhm.
go out and do find the far site, the level 2 sites where you just
Right.
all kinds of stuff you get if you actually do that. And then I was like, oh, this is the last turn. Oh, well, I don't want to do it. So I had all this stuff. And so I started, using burning it all, and I'd gotten some artifacts that let me research cheaper. And I had both of those in my hand. So I started using those. And then when you buy artifacts, you get to use them right away. And I kept using the artifacts to get more things that let me keep going up the track, which was getting me more and more compasses. And it turned into this beautiful moment where I was losing by, we don't know exactly, do the math in the middle, but I think I was losing by 20 points at that time going into the end of the last turn. And after Kevin had passed, I won by one on that last
Nice.
turn because I suddenly went halfway up the track with my magnifying glass to get to the top. And I was able to buy one of those little tiles at the top. And I got like six more artifacts, which was awesome. Now, I
Yeah.
don't know if that happens a lot because that
That's
would be,
no, that's the beauty of Arnak. That does happen. And in fact, usually it will happen with multiple players I've found. It's very much like Everdale in that regard. I also feel like Everdale, you start slow and you feel like, how will I ever get this engine going? But very quickly you get an engine, and near the end of the game, you're doing you got this massive final turn. Lost Ruins of Arnak is very much like that, and there's this nice crescendo that happens throughout the game. It speeds up, it accelerates to this climactic ending, and so when you're done playing that game, you really feel like you ended on an extremely high note. And the expansion blunted that a little bit, but I think it's because we weren't playing at all optimally with our characters, right? We had to figure out the characters because I started with a card. One of my four starting cards, I could do something cool with it, but then I got another fear card, which clogs your deck even more. So I think
well, don't be a
you have to,
coward. Don't be a coward.
yeah, there you go. Just walk out there. Yeah. So,
Well, it's funny because the
so
last
getting rid
one,
of those cards was hard.
well, and it's funny. I actually played that game where I was taking fear cards because I was able to get the assistant that let me kill a fear card
Right.
every turn. So I was like, yeah, whatever. I'll just keep doing it. But we found the same thing the first game. Like we couldn't get up that research track. Like our first game was like,
Oh,
I don't know,
really?
it was like
Oh, okay.
36 to 34. It was terrible. And then we played again and we both got to the top because just that adjustment of the game. And I wonder first off, the asymmetric abilities that has me. I will probably be. I'm hoping
We
it's out of
we
stock.
played with the easiest 2,
Yeah,
so
I'm
the
hoping
other
it's out of
4
stock,
even more
so I don't
interesting,
buy
I
this
think.
as soon as I'm done. But yeah, that's because but I tell you, we had a really good time with it.
Yeah,
Like
it's a
really fun.
fantastic game.
Yep. And and it is not like Dune Imperium. Like other than it has worker placement and deck building, it's just it's a very different game.
I
You
agree
got
with you.
the research track versus the area control thing going on.
Yep, I
And I
agree.
think
Those are just the base mechanics you're using, right?
mhm. And I
It definitely room for both on the shelf, I think.
yeah, just a really enjoyed it. But both of us and Kevin went back and he's already seeing if he can find a copy of it, which you can get the base copy now pretty easy. But
Mhm.
poor guy went back and he's like, I got to figure out which one of these I'm actually going to buy because I can't buy them all. You know,
Mm,
which Don, you don't have to buy them all.
I know, but I don't think can't go wrong if you do, though, Will.
Well,
So
as long
anyway,
as
yeah,
when are you buying a house for your games?
I don't know, man. One could argue they're already the main tenant of the house. My wife would argue that anyway.
Yeah. All right, so we got to play it. Man, for now one person that has not played this one,
Mm, so good.
if you like worker placement, it really is good. And every time I only played twice, but really disappointed every time it was over. And if we didn't have someone else coming over who had heard that Kevin had never played Mansions of Madness, like we're playing before you get on the plane tomorrow morning, we probably would have played again.
Yeah,
Like that's how much of a fun that it was. And I'm buying that expansion.
great
Dang
game.
it, you did that to me. All right, so my next one is my last one that I've been playing recently is a Kickstarter that delivered earlier this year, I guess. It's called Shiver Me Timbers. And if you ever played the Sid Meier Pirates computer game, did you ever
Mm,
play that?
I did not, but I know Jamie did. One of the
Well,
hosts of the
you
podcast.
need to get a copy of this for him as a get well
Ah.
gift because it is Sid Meier's Pirates.
Oh, I believe he has told me about that. I believe he's gotten this and played it because he's a huge naval fan. So pirates. I think he told me about
Yeah,
this.
it's mostly pick up and deliver, but you can fight each other and everything. And it has these cool. It's got a great toy factor. Like as
Yeah.
you improve your ship, you got these big old huge plastic ships, and if you get a bigger hold, you actually pull the ship apart and add in a little thing to make it bigger. It's got little dials for what you got in there, and you're putting cannons on and sails on and stuff. And it's got a very cool modular board that it's pretty big old modular board, and you're sailing around from port to port. You're doing stuff. You're getting rituals and summoning the kraken, and then going to fight the kraken. You're doing piratey stuff. But like in the video game, when you invade a ship or when you try to take a ship, you can shoot it a little bit, soften it up. That's fine. But the fight to take it comes down to a duel between your captain and their captain, and it's in the video game. If memory serves, it's basically they're doing high attack and you're trying to click the high block in time and low whatever. But the game is they've taken that, and when you invade, you have a single mini, which is two sword fighting pirates in the middle of the board, and you get some cards and they get some cards. And it's literally I play a high attack. If you got a card on that says high block, you blocked it. And it tells you how much damage. And so it's real fast, and you go until you knock the other one overboard, which is just like the video game. You can go do treasure hunts, and it's really fun. It's just pure fun. And I don't know if I'm going to say this, but I want to say it, that they are working on an expansion for it.
Cool.
And the expansion will have a co op solo mode that you can do, which is very exciting. And my thing that I told them, I haven't made my video yet, was that, gosh, I just wish there was more of everything, like
Mm,
more treasures you could go find, more monsters you could go take. You can only do the kraken or the sea serpent. That's all you can fight. More everything. And apparently that's what they're doing. And boy, it is. I don't have any pick up and deliver games that I've had that I've kept for various reasons.
mhm.
This one I think it might be the one that sticks around for me.
Mm.
It's great. So as soon as Jamie's feeling well enough, you get over there, you play that with him because it
Yeah,
is
that's on the
a
list. He
blast.
talked about it like he really enjoyed it. So he really enjoyed the ships and how you stored things on the ships, right? These little slots.
Oh, it's so
I remember
unnecessary.
talking about that.
It,
Yeah, he said that too, I
yeah,
believe.
but it
But
is
cool.
it is so much fun. Like you're sitting there and you're pulling the thing apart, you're putting it together, and you're getting frustrated when suddenly someone comes and pirates you and they mess up your ship. So you're like, oh man, you got to pull it back apart and pull off you've lost your rum or whatever. And yeah, it's really clever. I thought it was really going to be the toy factor, which is why people went for it.
Right.
Um, and then the reference to Sid Meier's Pirates, because that was a fun game, but it really delivers on that. And I think what's going to make it last is if this new expansion can start going outside of the
Mhm.
experience of Sid Meier's Pirates.
Mm.
You know, so
Yeah, it
that
definitely looks very clean from the pictures. And by that I mean it's almost like I think about Emerson Matsuichi's Reef, right? It's visually striking on the table, but it doesn't look overly complicated, right? Twilight Imperium fourth edition, 18th edition, wherever we're at now, that looks striking, but it looks very complicated. This doesn't, right? It looks nice and clean on the table.
yeah. So so this is how for me this is what really meant it was staying in my collection because we played the once and then I stopped and said, hold on. I took the mini, I took it outside, I sprayed it and painted it that night. I was like, okay, hold on. We can't play again until this is done. This man is visiting. Like he's leaving. So I stayed up late.
You got to step up.
Yeah,
Not bad. Not
it's
bad.
yeah, I think yeah, that's a good one. So there's not a lot of copies left out there, people, but there is a new Kickstarter coming. I want to say it's going to be in late spring, but I'm not. Don't quote me. Well, never quote me because I don't know anything. All right, but so what is your last one? This last one's gonna make me jealous. I'm hoping you're gonna
Yeah,
talk me out of it.
I saved this one for last on purpose. So this is the hotness right now. This is a game called Corrosion by Deep Print Games. Let's see, that's also Pegasus Spiel,
Capstone, I think.
Capstone in the U.S. Right? Capstone Games, and Capstone has been sort of on a tear lately, right? This is another in a long line of great games. This one is an engine building game. I only have one criticism I'll get back to in a minute, but there are a
Oh,
lot
good.
of
But make sure you highlight that
so you don't
real
buy
big.
it.
Yeah.
It's a small criticism, unfortunately. I'm gonna be honest. There's a lot to like about this game. You are managing a factory, and on your turn, you have a handful of engineer cards, and you have also a board that has the quadrants labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. And I got to be careful. The quadrants are not labeled. A disc, a wheel in the middle of that board is labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and it rotates so that the one let's see how this goes. So you rotate it clockwise. So what was in the three sector becomes in the two sector. What was in the two is in the one, right? So you're stepping things down. It's a way of almost like Zolkin, if people played Zolkin, of time moving forward a little bit.
Oh, so there's stuff like around the disc
Yes.
and so it was in the one. Then you turn that. Okay, I got you.
Yep.
I'm
So
with
you
you
don't.
now.
So it's like Zolkin in that Zolkin have often thought they could have tracked things by simply having things on a track and you move everything up a space on the track. But you turn the wheel in Zolkin and the wheel turns to a new space. So that's the way, and it's similar with this game. You turn that inner wheel and sort of everything that had been assigned the number 3 before is now assigned the number 2. And basically when things time out like that, then they come back to you, right? I hope I'm not getting that backwards. In any case, you get the idea, right? So
There's a whole bunch of corrosion nerds out there that are just like,
that's just
well,
going
there's
nuts.
three
Like
that are watching
that's
or
it. This
listening.
redneck screwing it all up. So on your turn, you have a choice. You can either play an engineer, and an engineer, you have some engineer cards you have in your hand, and they either, they'll get you resources, which or they will let you buy what they're called machines that you put on different spots of the corrosion wheel here. You can either play an engineer and do whatever it says. Your opponents can follow that if they play an engineer of the same suit or color that's higher. So there's this follow mechanism that's happening throughout the game as well. Or you can turn the wheel. When you turn the wheel, all kind of things go off. These machines you bought might, they might get you more resources. It might get you victory points. All some of these machines go off. These one-time machines go off if they hit that last section. This X hits them, right? The last section. Um, and then any engineers that sort of have aged all the way down, you get to pull back into your hand. So there's this nice balance of playing an engineer, putting it in some, and the stronger the engineer is, the longer it's going to take to age back and get into your hand. So there's this nice balance between playing an engineer to get something and turning the wheel to sort of run your machine. But the way this works
Is
is,
everyone sharing the same wheel that's turning,
nope,
or you have your own?
everybody's got their own wheel. So they have their own engine they're running. Uh, The difference between this engine building game and other engine building games is that this engine is continually tearing down over time because it is, wait for it, corroding, right? So, yeah, exactly. So, any resources you've gathered that you don't use by the time that wheel goes around, you lose those. Um, any machines you haven't been able to build because you basically got the blueprints throughout, by playing engineers and stuff. You have to build them. When you build them or activate them, if you haven't built them by the time they age around, they just go away. Don't get you any benefit. So there's this constant, and every time the wheel has been turned 4 times, you get some resources and a point, and so there's this push to sort of get that wheel moving quickly, but still play your engineers and build things. It's this nice balancing act across the all the way across the spectrum. Very abstract. So it's not like you have meeples or anything like that. You got a handful of cards. You got that corrosion wheel over here, and you're placing little, tokens in each of the 4 quadrants. You're taking those tokens away as they age off, or sometimes you can move them around by spending steam, um, which is one of the resources in the game. Really abstract in that regard. If I have a criticism, it's that this game overstays its welcome by a significant amount of time because it's not like so most of these engine builder games, you build an engine and you juice that engine to in the game, right? Drive the game to completion. But since the engine is constantly breaking down, you can only juice it so many times before you got to turn that wheel and get engineers back. And so there's this constant sort of struggle between building and running, and it never accelerates to the point some of those other games do. Having said that, it is still what I think is a very good game. Um, that's not a killer. That's a small criticism.
Yeah.
Uh,
Now I've heard one of actually a guy who was on the show a couple episodes ago from Level Up Board Game Podcast. He had said it was a perhaps a deceptively heavy game. Like there's a
oh yeah.
lot to learn and pick up. Was that your experience?
Yep. And to the point where one of my pet peeves is analysis paralysis. Right? People taking a long time on their turn.
Now
And
I want to just share this with you. So my wife would never have analysis paralysis. She carefully considers her options. So
oh, sorry.
we frame it like that here, and it's very very careful consideration. Let me tell you,
I understand the metagame of self-preservation, Will. I know how this goes.
I'm carefully considering my options through your words here.
Now that's cool. She carefully considers her options. Chris Miller gets paralyzed when he's trying to do some analysis. It turns out Chris
Man,
Miller's one of the other hosts of the
poor
podcast.
Chris gets slagged off even on
Uh,
other people's
well,
podcasts. That's great.
I only say that because he's not here to defend himself. No, he's a good guy. I'm just giving him a hard time.
Chris,
It's a
Chris, you
running
are
joke on
welcome
the
to come on
podcast.
and slag Don off all you want.
That's right. So, uh, yeah, analysis paralysis could be an issue if you don't have the right group. It was just a two-player game we were playing, and I want to say it took us 2 hours.
Woo.
It was a learning game. 2 hours for a two-player game. I'm betting if you play 3 players, you're talking 2.5.
Yeah. Well, I
Four
mean, you
players, you're
compare
probably up
that to
around
like
three.
we were talking about Arnak. Like we had our learning game, and we were still done in an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
I mean, that's I mean, apples and oranges here, right? But still, like if you're going to sit down for a heavier, and Arnak's not heavy, I guess that's part of, but like you better like it. If you're going to be 2.5 hours, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and how is the interaction? Now, I'm not a person who always
Oh, that's a good
needs
question. Yeah.
interaction in my Euro games. I love a good multiplayer solitaire where it's like I'm going to outdo you, Don. My plan is better than yours. Like I'm all about
Yeah.
that, but I know some people, get a pet peeve about that.
Yeah, the interaction comes from the follow mechanism by and large. And there are so many cards in your hand, as you get throughout the game, that at least I don't foresee in future games us getting to a point where it's like, okay, I know how your hand is laid out, and I know how my hand's laid out, and I'm gonna save these cards so I can follow. It's like it's mostly multiplayer solitaire. There's a race for some of the machines and additional engineers that are available in the pool, as well as what's called chrome machines. I didn't talk about. They're sort of permanent machines
So
that don't
it's kind
corrode.
of like your high school experience. You were in the pool and everyone was
Yeah,
racing to
that's
get you,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a race for certain things. So good things pop up. It's like, well, I hope they don't get that. But you can look and see, okay, their engineer that would get them that, they don't have it in their hand. They've played it and they haven't gotten it back yet. So I've got a round, to sort of wait on this. So, yeah, that's interaction is via that follow mechanism and the race that's sort of taking place. Now, I want to caveat what I said about the game being overstaying its welcome a little bit. That's because you have to exhaust a pool of a certain type of special victory points. Nothing says you can't house rule this and lower the number of victory points that get you to the end game. And I don't think anything breaks if you do that. So this small criticism can be easily addressed by simply, taking some victory points out of that pool and shortening the game that way.
That's good. That'll be our next question because sometimes you can't do that. You know, you
Mhm.
deplete a deck or something like the cards in that deck are necessary, but if it's just points, just pull some out. I think I wish more games would do that. That have that kind of in game trigger.
Mhm.
Like just literally put it in. You want a short game? Put 12 in there because not because most of us aren't smart enough to figure that out, but because there's so many purists out there. Like, well, I don't want a house rule. I'm
Yeah.
not going to house
Yeah.
rule my game.
Yeah. No, and this one, I mean, it's ripe for that kind of thing. Um, the game I think that I can remember starting that was Race for the Galaxy, right? You have, if I recall, 12 victory points per player that you can pull out of this special pool, and that drives toward the end game. Um, so this game implements that type of mechanism, and like I said, just take a few points away. Unless you're a purist, as you said, it'll play very smooth.
Yeah. This is going into my. I'm going to keep an eye out for a deal.
Yeah.
Is what it's because I've been trying to keep my dungeon crawls and Euro games down to those. Okay, well, one, if my wife likes it, it's staying. Period. Done. But beyond that, which are the ones that if I'm like, okay, I can play anyone I want on one hand, five of them that I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, I'd grab that. I try to keep it down to that. Those are full price games to me. So it sounds like I should look at it because I do like the sound of that little
Yeah,
cranking
it's
engine
nice.
and
I'm glad I own it. It will not hit the table as often as some other engine building games. If it reminds me of anything, if people played London by Martin Wallace, because that engine you build up and break it down continually throughout the game, it's got that vibe to it.
all right. So our last thing here, well, before we get into the real talk, is what do you got on your table right now? We got two things set up as being on the table. And so my first one, I can go real quick on this. And this is coming to Kickstarter, I believe it's March 5th or the 4th, something like that. And that is Maul Peak, which is the follow-up to Skull Hollow. And this is one that you and we actually played at
Oh yeah.
your brewery on the table. And this is my Skull Hollow is my other favorite two-player game. I just love this completely asymmetric, even beyond one person playing the tiny little foxes that just get smashed left and right. The other person playing one of four different huge old guardians, kind of Shadow of the Colossus style, and the foxes got to climb the monster to kill it. Monster has all kinds of different powers. Well, Maul Peak is almost just more of the same, which for me would be fine because I really like
Not
the
a bad
game.
thing. Yeah.
But now I've only played 3 times so far. I'm still working on my content and stuff. But it's really different because the bears, the big thing with them is they're way stronger than the foxes are. They don't die nearly as easily. They can do a lot more damage. But once they're dead, they're dead. They don't come back. With in Skull Hollow, you just keep throwing those foxes out, over and over and over again. But you got to be way more careful with the bears. The bears are also slower, and you can summon them for free because in Skull Hollow, you got to play one of your actions to do it. Well, you build up this rage pool because bears get angry, right?
Yeah.
And as you build up this rage pool, you start using the rage to summon these bears out, and all the bears have these crazy different magic powers that they can do. And then on the flip side, the Guardian side is similar to playing the Guardian side in Skull Hollow. It's the same idea. If you can play the Guardians in Skull Hollow, you can play the Guardians here. And what I was worried about is, were any of these four new Guardians going to feel like playing the old ones? Because how many different mechanics can you come up with the same relatively simple game? And let me tell you, all the 3 I've played so far are completely different. They have one of them has a mechanic where it's trying to just confuse the bears. And you have a little confusion deck, and you have stuff that clogs up their deck in their hand. But if you can just get rid of all those cards, make them be super confused, you win. But
No.
that's which we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
So really, really clever. And the only one I haven't played is on my table right now, And I know it plays different. And if you're just listening, you're not going to see anything here. But this is the one Guardian, which is two big old meeples. Has got the
Oh, that's one guardian.
yeah. This is one. It's got this three-headed dog
Ah,
and a big old monster guy that kind of runs around and on the board. Each one of them has their own different damage things they can do. It has all the the six actions, but the little dog here can do three of the actions, and the guy with the stick here can do the other thing. Like it's just, it's really, really good. It's got the one thing I haven't gotten to try yet, and that is you can combine them. You can do all the mix and matching you want, but you can also play with both the foxes and the bears teamed up against two guardians out there. And of course, that means you got on one map. You remember the map? It's a tiny little
yeah.
thing. So you have all these foxes and bears all over the place. And if you're playing with this guy here with the two, so you got three guardians stomping all over the place. I really, really like it. I thought when I read the rules that my review was going to be, well, pick one or the other. Skull
Mhm.
Hollow, Maul Peak, you're fine. No. If you liked Skull Hollow, this is a must own. Just period, I think. And it's great. So that is my commercial, I guess, for Maul Peak, you know.
And, for those who can't see those the wooden meeple type things he held up, meeple is not really the word for it. They're big and very detailed, very much like the Skull Hollow game. I'm looking forward to this because
Yeah,
I do enjoy Hollow quite a bit. And if there was a criticism of that game, it's that you only had the Fox and Clan, and now if you got this Bear Clan you can play as, and this mixing and matching, there's so many more different ways you can approach a game. And I agree with you. It's unbelievable they can have four new guardians that play very differently from the ones in the base box. That's
yeah, and
impressive.
because the easy thing they did with the bears was the mechanics are slightly different. And they die, they go away. So they're 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 stronger. So that's I'm saying easy, put that in quotes, right?
Right.
But an easy thing. But the Guardians are, if you can play a Skull Hollow Guardian, you can play a Maul Peak Guardian. If you
That's
already know
cool.
how to play the Foxes, you don't necessarily know how to play the Bears. Um, really, really, really cool. So I'm really high on it. So far. So that's my first one. You got some biggies on your table. So
Yeah, and unfortunately, they're not laid out to play. They are laid out to pack away and read the rules. And I just these are two Kickstarters I just received, and the first one is the second half of my original Solomon Kane um, pledge. I received Solomon Kane, I don't know, like a year ago. Played that solo, and man, it is just such a fabulous game. These are, 6 or 7 additional episodes uh, in the Solomon Kane, uh, you know, um, stories that and they're all so good. They're all so very thematic. So I'm excited to get those open. But at the same time, I'm looking at this huge stack of boxes, and it's like, man, I've
yeah,
been so
I
busy
believe
at
I believe
work.
that's
It's like I don't have enough time.
on the shelf behind you, right?
That's the big boxes on the shelf. So
Yep.
those two big boxes are the base pledge that sort of delivered, right? The wave one of the pledge that delivered about a year ago. And now and that's got, I don't know, that's probably got,
I think it's 10.
uh, is it 10? It's a
I think
lot.
so. Yeah.
And I got another 6 or 7 more upstairs now. Each of them are great, and it's a very good game. It's kind of interesting because Solomon Kane, you don't control Solomon Kane directly. He's the Puritan warrior, right? Um, so you don't control him directly. You control. Let's make sure I get
The
this
four
right.
virtues.
The virtues.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Or
Yes,
the one. There's that option to play with just the one. Yeah.
exactly. So if it's multiple players that are playing, it's co-op. You play uh, the virtues that are sort of changing the landscape, uh, stopping so it's almost like the Solomon Kane is doing things in the story, and bad guys are doing things in the story. You have NPCs that are there, but then above that there are the virtues and sort of the bad spirits, and the virtues are getting in the way of the bad spirits and trying to stop them from influencing the fight. So it's almost like a really cool aspect I wasn't sure if I was going to like or not is that you're not controlling the actual board so much as you're controlling what's happening above the board, and that's just a very cool thing. Very few, if any, games have done before. Uh, this was a really refreshing game. So overproduced, it's ridiculous, but you get value for it, right?
There are so
Um,
many minis. Like,
yeah, it is, yeah.
and minis that are even more unnecessary than normal. Like there's like minis for a body.
Yes, that's right. It's so great though. It's just, you know, it's I've been watching this YouTube series of guy that he looks at these mega cars, these supercars, and I was surprised. I didn't even know there are cars out there that cost over to $10 million, and everything on this car is made to precision. Single like there may only be 25 of these cars in the world. And they're these mega cars with so much attention to detail.
Your wife saw
Solomon
you on
Kane is a
YouTube, and
mega
she said,
game.
"Buy." Yeah, your wife saw you on that YouTube. Said, "Buy more board games, please."
That's right. I should have it playing in the background so I can see, I'm not so bad. So this is the mega game or super game amongst games in that regard. Very well done. And not it's not I think there's a rash of games out there now that are they pile, they've got a okay game and they pile this big mound of minis on it. And it's like, oh, that's what suggests there's value there. If this game did not have the minis, it would still be a great, great game.
Yep.
So it's got everything. Man, the more I think about it, the more I talk about it, the more I want to play. It's just so well done. So I'm
Yeah.
so that's the thing I'm looking forward to getting into.
Yeah,
That's on my table right now.
it's one of those games. It's got a really cool dice placement mechanic with it. It's one of the ones that's I put this up there with a Kingdom Death Monster in the sense that I would absolutely buy this game with just tokens and no minis,
Right?
like
It's that
without
good.
question. Like it is not the. I mean, the minis are really good. I think overall,
Yeah.
I'm not a great mini painter like some of your buddies are, but they're really nice minis. But I would absolutely play it. Like it's very, very, very clever, very unique. Um, and I assume you also got all the eroded cards. I know there's a whole bunch of
Yeah, those are
misprints.
those are also what came in the second wave is an addendum to the rule book that has it's a FAQ and errata, and also the cards that are going to replace some of the cards in the first wave. So man, they went all out. It's really nice.
All right, so my last one I got on the quasi on the table. I'm actually, because I was going up to see other Don tomorrow. We're gonna play this. Now this is a game that I think you're gonna watch out for. We're gonna see because I think
All
it's
right.
either going to be brilliant or aggressively mediocre because it's going to be fiddly.
Mm,
Like that's where it is, and this is called Solar 175. Why 175? I don't know, but it is a legacy style Euro game, and I don't think it's a destroy stuff legacy style. I think it's a you build. I think you play a series of 5 or 8 games, and each one
mhm.
builds. But it's a bag builder, and you're drawing your workers out of the bag and putting them on your player board, and you have to have the right combination of workers. Like you might have an engineer and a lobbyist and a board game podcaster. I don't know what the third one is offhand. And you had to go on specific spots. And when you get the right workers in the right spots, you activate these different worker placement, right? Different things. You get different resources. You can send your big old ship flying around this huge universe that it has. You make with tiles, and it expands over the course of the game, and all that. Fine and interesting. But what really has me intrigued is one of the actions you can take is with your lobbyists, and you can vote. And you literally have to make a ballot box in this game. There is a
Oh,
ballot
really?
box you have to build, and there's all these tiny little dry erase ballots. And you can sacrifice these lobbyists, which I kind of like. You're sacrificing them for a vote. But yeah, we don't need lobbyists, right? And you have to vote for whichever one of the 3 corporations you want to win the election at the end of the game. And that will carry over to the next game, whoever has won. And that changes the end game scoring based on who wins as you're playing the whole game with these secret ballots and you're playing. And so if the, Don Corps wins, then the military presence is going to score double.
Right.
So there's 3 ways you're scoring, and you're going to double one of those at the end of the game based on who wins this. And I don't know how that's going to go. It might be ridiculously fiddly or amazing. I have no
Right.
idea. So I'm real excited about it. It's a lot. I sent to everybody who's playing tomorrow. I sent their how to play video. I said, "You watch this. I'm throwing you out if you have not watched this video because I do not have 45 minutes to explain this thing."
I tell
But
you what, it looks pretty good.
it might be amazing. Like I
Yeah.
don't know, or it might just be so much. Like, and everybody that I shared this video with as we watched it, we're talking about it. All of us have said the same thing. So
Y- Yeah, it's going to be a fine line that they walk here. because looking at it, everything you said just intrigues me so much. I look at the picture of, I guess this is the full board. It looks uh, like the board is built out in what I'm looking at. A lot of squares that
Yeah,
are
there's
different
these square
places and stuff.
tiles, and there's like builds like sectors, and as you go through more and more games, it gets bigger and bigger,
That's
and then
cool.
each one of those has two sides, and at some point you flip it to the other side as this legacy thing that goes on. I guess you put stickers on those so you know which side it is. But yeah, so that's always going to change. I guess it always comes out in a different order, and it just there are so many things going on. Like this is going to be one of the heaviest games I've played in a long time, I think. But if they stick the landing on it,
I was going to say it's very, I would say, innovative and aggressive. But yeah, if you, as you put it, if they stick the landing, it could be something special. It looks really good.
yeah, I think what really got me first, I was like, "Are you kidding me? I got to build a ballot box."
Yeah.
But like to me, that is so much fun of all the different games you can play with that. Of okay, I'm going to try to actually make sure that this corporation wins the election because I need those points.
Right.
But you could the mind games you can play because I might know that you want the military bonus or whatever at the end. So I might just toss in a couple votes that are literally for the military. So you panic and you start throwing your stuff in.
Right.
It's super clever. So I'm nervous but really excited about it. We'll see what happens.
Nervous in a good way. Let me know when the Kickstarter starts. I'll definitely check this one out.
Yeah, so
It's a good looking.
it's coming. I can't remember exactly what. I think I have a little bit of time. And you got this. You have one. Oh, you
Yep.
got one that I'm going to be. It just arrived at my buddy Matt's house. I think on Monday. It
Yeah.
just showed up. This one you're about to talk about.
Yeah. This is Nemesis Lockdown, and this is a follow-on to Nemesis. And I don't know when Nemesis came out. It's been a few years ago. One of my
Mhm.
favorite games. I mean, Nemesis really is, and everybody says this kind of openly now, right? It's like Aliens, the board game. And I say this knowing there are actually aliens board games out there, but the one that sort of captures that experience in the aliens universe the best is one that doesn't have that IP, and that's this, right? Nemesis Lockdown. And Nemesis, in the original Nemesis, you're on a space station, and that space station is going to jump somewhere. And everyone plays a character that's sort of being woken up from cryo sleep, only to find that this ship is infested with aliens, and there's potentially an alien queen out there, and there are eggs all over the place. Again, just like the Aliens movie. And each of the characters has a hidden role that they're playing, or hidden motivation, I should say. So it could be one of those things where my motivation might be to escape with my best friend. And my best friend may be assigned to me to be player number two. So player number two, I got to get them out of there. So I really want to help them. Or my hidden motivation may be I hate player number two and I want to kill player number two. So when I tell player number two, hey, I think we should go down this pathway together and go explore, uh, this person doesn't know if I'm doing that to get them alone so I can kill them or because I want to protect them, right? So
And the fun thing is, at the same time, you might be trying to save player two. They might be trying to
exactly.
kill you.
And it leads to great thematic moments where, it could be one of these things where it's like, okay, here's a plan. I'm going to go through this door, and then you can come on your turn, and it'll be just in time to escape this alien that we know is hunting you back here. And then on your turn, you say, okay, I'm going to go through this door, and now I'm going to lock the door behind me. And so suddenly it's like, oh no, this is not cool. But there's no animosity in the game I found, right? Because such a cool story is playing out. Now, Lockdown, on the other hand, is on a secret base on Mars, I believe. And that secret base on Mars, this reminds me a little bit of like there's a the thing aspect they're applying to it because the levels themselves of which there are three are dark, I believe, and you can turn lights on. Now, I'm talking about mechanics. I haven't read the rule book yet, but these are things I've heard and read in different places. So you can turn lights on, which changes how you interact with the environment and how the aliens interact with the environment. Right? You may have more advantages with the lights on. They may have more disadvantages with the lights on. Or I'm guessing vice versa. I just don't know. And that's why I'm ready to dig into this because I really enjoyed Nemesis. My understanding is that this version of the game, this Nemesis Lockdown, is it's a 95% match rule wise, mechanism wise with that base Nemesis game, but it's a different setting, some different characters, different events that can happen, and so I'm really excited to try this because I love the base game so much that more of the same in a different setting with different characters is exactly what if I could have made a wish list, that's what I'd want, and that's what I'm guessing Awakened Realms has given me. I hope to find out within the next few days.
There's a couple friends of mine that they swear by that as a solo game. The original Nemesis as well. Just says,
Really, I don't think I've ever played it solo. That's
yeah, they
interesting.
just swear by. See, now I'm not huge into aliens, so I was like,
Hmm.
whatever. I'm much more interested by Lockdown.
Hmm.
So we shall see. And luckily, I didn't have to buy it because my buddy did. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
the
always
real
good.
win.
I bought my own. You know how it goes. But I'm sure, we liked the original Nemesis so much that I'm sure many of my friends have purchased their own copy as well.
Yeah, so that's the question: is how many of your friends right nearby also purchased it, and
Well,
who gets to use their version so they get to say that they played it?
that's right. I don't know. I think we're happy to play anybody's version of this. It is funny though when I back a Kickstarter. So we often talk about Dr. James on the podcast or Lon or uh, we all follow each other. So it's funny whenever something like this comes out, you'll see Don. When I back it, suddenly Dr. James Hampton has backed, and then Lon has black backed, and we all sort of get online and call each other junkies. It's great.
And it's you can smell your own, right?
That's right. It's not untrue.
All right, so that was really glad we went through all the stuff, but that was a longer what we've been playing lately than
Yeah.
we usually do, which is totally okay. Now, our topic for today was what are your least favorite mechanics in games? Now, I only actually had two of them. Now, Don's been having some hard times with games lately because as I look here, 13 different mechanics, which maybe we should do what mechanics does Don actually like.
It's surprising I don't hate games, given the list that I came up with here.
So I'll just jump in with my two real quick and to see what you think. So the first one is actually I'm gonna relates to Nemesis, and that is betrayal in games if it's not a game that's specifically about betrayal. And what I mean by that, I love me some Battlestar Galactica. We just played the other day. I will play that game and I will know that somebody is a monster around this table. Maybe it's me, no problem with it. But when I'm playing a game like a 4X game or something, and you and I are working together, and then you come blow me up, I get so butthurt. Like
Really?
we had a thing, we had an accord, and you broke it. Is why I won't play diplomacy. It's why I won't
Oh,
play.
diplomacy, man. I get you there. I
Oh,
get you. You got to play diplomacy with people that you will love no matter what they do,
or
or
you
people
already
that you
don't
will
like.
never see again
Yeah,
because
I,
there's no middle ground in that game.
but it's that kind of thing. I can't get over the butt hurt. I get so mad and I get so paranoid the whole game, and I can't handle it. I
That's
can't.
good. Oh, man, I haven't played too many games like that. Maybe I don't like them either. I'm just not sure. Uh, yeah, the thing that gets me is there are some betrayal games in general, these hidden role games that feel personal for some reason. Diplomacy, I won't say it's not a betrayal type game, but there's definitely because you're always betraying in a sense, right? My father-in-law used to say, diplomacy is the art of saying nice doggy until you get a big rock. And this is not unlike that, right?
Yeah,
You want to take advantage
yeah,
of the
that's the
weak,
exact thing that I'm talking about. Like it's not betrayal House on the Hill betrayal.
right?
It's that like but you love the Italians.
It's the betrayal at the moment of greatest vulnerability. That's the
Yes.
thing. That's what makes it personal, right? It's like, oh no, I showed my belly and you cut it. It's like, oh, it just feels so much more personal than when I show in Nemesis that my job, I just didn't like you, and maybe you had an affair with my wife and I want to kill you or whatever.
Yeah.
The
Well,
thing is,
the
it's like,
game made you do it.
yes,
The game
yes,
made you.
I didn't choose to wait on you to be vulnerable at that moment. The game kind of forced me into that situation. Yeah,
This is really your fault that I did this to you.
that's right. That's
But it's
good
when you
though.
can't make that argument. Diplomas, you can't make that argument.
Yeah.
You know,
No, you did that because
you're a
that w-
monster.
that was when you were most vulnerable.
Yep.
And yeah, there's something about that. There are a few other games. I remember for some reason Shadows over Camelot struck me like that, which is just I had won that as the trader occasionally way back in the day. and it always just felt so bad. It just felt so bad. But then you play games like Avalon, right? Um, and or one night Ultimate Werewolf or something like that. And it doesn't feel personal, right?
Mhm.
So, and I don't know what the distinction is there. Secret Hitler is another one where it just doesn't feel personal. It feels like you're gaming the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the delineator is between those two, but I do know that if a game's on the wrong side of it, man, it can feel
Yeah.
so
And,
horrible.
and I don't know exactly what it is. I was talking with my buddy Matt about it, who loves the 4X games. Like we were just playing Ankh recently,
Mhm.
which side note, for my money, is the best of that series, I
Mm.
think.
Oh
But
wow.
like Rising Sun, I really don't like. Really don't,
Yeah.
because of that. And
Yeah.
even though there is, he's like, no, but there's a betrayal mechanic. It's a tile betrayal. I'm like, it doesn't. It's something about, even to the point where like you're making the alliances. Like, we've been allying the whole game, and suddenly the last turn you're gonna hang me out to dry. Really, you're gonna do that to
Right.
me? I just, it just, I'm getting worked up just
Yeah. No, I
thinking
get
about
it.
it.
And Rising Sun is my least favorite of that series as well. Uh, Not specifically for that reason, for a different reason. It turns out. I mean, I played a game one time, just set me off because it was like before I even got the chance to take one turn, all of my options that would have done anything for me were gone. It was clear to everyone at the table that there was no way for me to dig myself out of this hole, and I hadn't even taken a turn. I had not affected the board. Uh, yeah, and I'm with you on that one. It's like those betrayal tiles that you can pull, right? It's like, ah, man, it makes it so painful. And the board state could be once even such that your ally, it's clear that's their best move,
Mhm.
and somehow it's still personal. I don't
Yep.
know what it is about that game. So I understand that one.
All right. What's your first of 37?
Yeah, I'm gonna be careful here. Um, Here's one I will say. So I'll start with this one. So mechanisms that rely on you to know the deck before you
Mm.
are good at the game. I kind of want to compete a little bit, even the first time I play the game, right? I want uh, my intelligence or lack thereof to play its way out into the game, as opposed to memory. I mean, it's almost under the memory subcategory in a sense. So the game that comes to mind here, and it's a favorite by a lot of people, so I'm probably
Wait,
going
I'm gonna
to
guess. I'm gonna guess.
hit
Twilight Struggle.
Twilight Struggle is the one, my man. You have to know how that game progresses, throughout the decks to play it competently, right? And given the number of games and the variety that I like to play, I'm just not going to play it that often. Um, and if you're going to play that at all competitively, you can't play competitively if somebody else has played it 10 times. They understand the ebb and flow, which portions of the board are important any given time, and I don't, right? Uh, and it seems like I feel like as much as that game is loved, I'm missing out on a little bit of the game because it's assumed I've played 5 games before I play it to be good at it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually one of the reasons why I've never pursued it, because like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I did, but I don't. There is that intensely unsatisfying moment when you're playing and the card or whatever comes up. You're like, I had no idea that could happen, and now everything I've done has been just blown away. But I mean, a lot of people really like that. But it's a level of skill that,
Flexibility. You want to allow the flexibility to
yeah,
adjust to those things. But in some of the, and I don't mind that, but in some of these games, I don't think flexibility is enough. I think in terms of, and it's not just deck. It's you speaking about it made me think it's unforeseen things you could have prepared for if you only knew that they were coming at some point in that game, and they come in every game. You just don't know they're coming.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Seafall, from a legacy point of view, kind of hit me that way because the first couple games you're building towards something, only to find out that's either a good thing you're building toward or a bad thing, and you had no input to tell you if it was good or bad when you started.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my first one.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And I had thought about it, but I just don't play games like that very often. I just stay away from it.
Turns out I don't either anymore. Will.
Yeah. All right. So here's my other one. This is a very specific. Mostly comes in dungeon crawls. I hate being stunned. Like,
Yeah.
especially if it's you're playing with, if I'm playing by myself and I'm playing running 4 characters, whatever, it's fine. But if I'm not, if I got one, there's like, we're playing Gloomhaven and it's just me. my one guy, and I'm gonna lose a turn. Oh, it just chaps my ass. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
I don't like it, and I feel like there's other ways to put a penalty on something without making you feel like you just can't do anything. Because losing a turn is just not fun.
Yes, this is in a larger category, I think, and I agree with you. This seems like I'll even go a bit further. It's not just a mechanic you don't like. It's I think it's relatively poor game design in many cases because what it's doing is it is actively taking away your fun. That
And I expect
surely that
you to
can't be
do
an
that,
objective.
Don.
That's
Like
right.
you take my fun, not the
That's
game.
right. So, whenever anything takes your fun away, because in your mind is building to a crescendo of, "Ooh, this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do, and now I'm going to make it." Oh no, lose turn. It's like now it's completely wrecked. So all that build up that I was going to get satisfaction for trying to carry out, uh, all that's gone. That fun has been taken away from me. It's almost a betrayal of sorts, like your first mechanic you talked about. It's sucking the fun out of that game for someone. Seems like a
So
bad
uh,
design.
yeah, ironically, I have no problem doing it to the game, which is
Yeah.
ironic. Like and that's one of the actually sitting right here behind me. This Infinity Defiance game behind me. Like there's conditions that you can put on monsters and you get on you, and they're different. It's specifically said that they are different for each one. They're yeah. So you've stunned the monster. It's not going to do anything. Well, that doesn't upset me because it's the game. Like it has no feelings. Oh, wouldn't it be horrible if games did have feelings? Oh my gosh, I hurt so
Yeah.
many of them.
I know I'm
But
surrounded by them.
yeah, right. But it doesn't because I understand the usefulness behind the strategy of being able to do that. But yeah, it is just never fun. Just like oh my turn. Okay, well I'm done.
Yep.
Go ahead and do your 7-minute turn or playing with some of your friends, your 17-minute turn. Well, I just kind of sit here.
So I'm gonna tag one on to yours if that's okay, and that is the take that, right? I think about Twilight Imperium Third Edition in particular because there are cards you can play that just wreck other players, and it's not you lose your turn, but it is again you've built up to something. I'm gonna take that away from you, and in a game like Twilight Imperium in particular, it takes a long time to build up to those things. So there's a lot of investment by the player, and you're doing something that's just taking that from them.
Yeah, I like take that if it is a game that is about take that.
If it oh, yeah.
Yeah, like
What
that's like I enjoy playing Red Dragon Inn, but that is pure take that. Like that's what you're doing.
Yep, and it's
And
quick, right? It's not a long
yep.
game.
Like in
Yeah,
fact, you mentioned Everdell earlier. When I play with my wife, I actually pull out. There's a couple take that cards in there. I just pull them out
yeah.
because I mean she's worse than anybody. Like if you messed everything up, she's angry. And if there's like
Oh, yeah.
2 cards in the whole deck, and like what if I get them both? Because I can't help myself. I will play them both. That's what's going to happen. But yeah, I'm with you. It's the same thing, and I don't play a lot of games that do that either because if it's not the point of the game, it's just well, thank you for having me waste 90 minutes
Exactly.
because it's never a short game.
That's right. And again, it sucks the fun out of it. It not just sucks the fun out. It sucks the satisfaction of something you wanted to do out of the game, right? Uh, yeah, again, that's a questionable design decision. I think it could work in games, as you said, that are based around that quick, fun, light games that are based around like Red Dragon Inn. I think it's classic. Uh, but when it's a long 4 or 5, 6, 7 hour game, and I had a buddy years ago. He built a war sun. He spent so many turns building, and he just wanted to walk it out one space. My buddy played a card and said all the orbital stations within range fire on that war sun, and it just blasted that thing out. I believe that's the closest I've ever come to having a homicide occur in my house.
Well, yeah, because I was thinking that story because I remember you telling that on one of your podcasts. I was like, oh
Yeah,
my gosh,
it's a
so mad.
classic.
And well, it's the reason why actually I no longer have Firefly the board game,
Yeah.
and I liked it as a good pick up deliver game. I was playing with my wife, and I had to move the Reavers right on top of her,
Yeah.
and it just there. Boy, it's a good thing the table was heavy
I
because
was
that
gonna say,
would.
man, sometimes you gotta let the Wookiee win. You know what I'm
Well, I didn't realize that was the first time I found out that Wookiee needs to win sometime.
saying?
But like in retrospect, like that's the same thing. Like it wasn't because she didn't win. It's because she had worked on a plan for a long time and almost arbitrarily I was like, boop, sorry, plan. Sorry, 7 hours of Twilight Imperium to play your War
Yeah,
Son.
that thing's about to go away. Yeah. Uh, yeah. So all those under one category, I think, makes sense, right? Another one, if you don't mind me jumping to the next one.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I'm actually through my list, and so you go and
that's right.
but bounce
I'm going
on
to pick
through the as many as
judiciously
you want.
from mine, uh, since I do have so many here. But if I look at there's a theme throughout my list, is that these are mechanics I don't mind so much, but they're easy to do wrong. And if
Hmm.
if you do them wrong, then it can be a problem. I'll give you a great example. That's my first one on the list. So if there's too much randomness associated with some kind of bag building mechanism you're doing, uh, the game that comes to mind is Thieves. I played this game, and a lot of people think it's a classic game. This is from like 15 years ago, and there's a mechanism, if I remember correctly, a mechanic where you dig in the desert to try to find things, and so you pull some chits from the bag, and those chits can either be sand or they can be treasures that you found. And when we played that game, um, I had my buddy Steve, and he pulled from the bag, and he was pulling like 3 chits, I think, and he got 3 nice treasures. And I was pulling 5 chits, and I got like 4 sand and something bad. It's like, you got to be kidding me. It was just so swingy, and it just ruined that aspect of the game. And that aspect, that mechanic was such a central portion of that game, such a significant part. It ruined the whole game for me. I literally have never played Thieves to this day, nor will I play Thieves, even though people love that game.
And
So,
Steve sends you bags of sand all the time to remind you.
well, I got a story out of it. That's all I got out of it. But I couldn't help but think it's like we could have just sat here and rolled dice for a while and just, whoever got the highest number wins the game, because that's how random it felt. Now, compare that to a game that does bag building very well, and that's Quacks of Quedlinburg. So that game I love. There's a push your luck aspect to it. Um, you're always progressing. It comes down to you never you always get enough warning something bad's coming. Whereas in Thieves, it was just like a complete roll of the dice. It's either really good or really bad. And in Quacks, you're sort of pushing your luck. So again, an example where it can be done poorly, in my opinion, and can be a mechanic that sort of irritates you in a game.
Yeah, I know several people actually. One a buddy of mine, kind of Bernie Lynn. He's the designer of Omicron Protocol, and
Hmm.
which Paul unfortunately titled name. Let me tell you,
I
like
bet, yeah, it's
5 years
bad.
they work on this game. It's on the boat now, or just about to be on the boat, and now they got this going. Like they actually used to use hashtag Omicron.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't use that anymore.
I was about to
But
say that's not a good move
no,
now.
no, no, no. But game that you've talked about before, Galaxy Hunters,
Yes.
and the dice mechanic part of it is, I really like. It's not determined. You're rolling dice, and we were playing, and it's actually ties into both the kind of the randomness and what I said earlier about losing a turn is he got really turned off by the game halfway through or two-thirds of the way through because he had built up all these dice and he's rolled them all and they all missed. And so he just lost a turn. You got, what, 20 turns you have in that game? Like
Yeah.
suddenly he lost 5%. And, for him, he's like, that is, boy, that is not fun. I don't like this at all. And for me, I'm like, oh, dice, throwing dice. And that's how it goes. But that kind of thing, it's like it's a very fine line, and I think that's one of those things that it's the individual players. You really got to stop and think of what kind of person are we playing with. Oh,
Yeah.
it's Will, maybe not play diplomacy.
Right.
Or really, it's anybody, maybe not play diplomacy.
That's right. It's a human. Maybe I shouldn't play diplomacy with them.
um,
So
all right,
I'll jump into the next one here, and
oh,
that
oh,
is
wow, yeah, everybody, you need to know that on our doc here, Don is going through and color coding on the fly. I just want you to know, like that is professional podcast material here. Now, of course, I don't know what the colors mean, so I don't know if he's going to talk
yeah,
about the colored ones or not.
so it's not that good. I'm making changes that nobody knows what they mean. These are the remaining ones I'm going to pull from. So here's one I really hate, and to be honest, I'm not sure of a game I love that has this mechanic in it at all, and that is line of sight. So whenever you have to measure line of sight in a game, um, it just the game comes to a halt while I imagine a string between a dot in this square and a dot in this square, and I have to figure out, is this corner of the wall which it hits, does that count or not? Let me go into the rule book and see if corner, it's like it's just so clunky
Well,
that
I'm going to send you a link after this because it changed my world.
okay.
This thing, it goes on top of a drill, just a little straight line laser.
You just lay on there.
It is life changing for those games. But I'm with you. Line of sight is annoying as heck. And I think unmatched is just color coded, I think.
Yes, it is.
Which
And
is,
that simplifies it, right?
yep.
So I don't mind that so much because I don't have to stop the game. I can tell. So in my mind, I just go, okay, does my space and your space, they have the same color on the circle? Boom. So attacks can go between those two spaces. We can see each other. But anytime I've got to imagine, okay, I can use any corner on this square, but it goes to the center of this square, and then our corners include. It just seems
Yeah.
clunky,
Yeah,
and
and then
that just takes
just
me out
make
of
it
the game.
simple. Just make it
Yeah,
simple.
exactly.
I'm a more of a fan of like I get line of sight's important. That matters, if you're trying to immerse yourself. But I'm more of a just any corner, any corner to corner. Okay, great. Or
Yep.
center to center. Like that's it. Just
Yep.
make it simple. And I will say, I my stupid little $7 laser has been just life changing on that.
Well,
Because
send me
my
a link. Maybe
imagination
I'll
is
maybe
not
I'll change my mind on line
maybe
of
well
sight.
because it's amazing how good my imagination is as I imagine my line versus their line. It's funny. It's like
Yeah.
like I try not to cheat, but you make me imagine. My
Yeah.
imagination is pretty good.
So I'll tell you another one. Another one of mechanics that can be a pet peeve for me is the movement templates. So this is another favorite I'm referring to, and that's X-wing. When you have to lay those templates down and move things around, you got to have a big table to do this on. And I don't know, it just seems so loosey goosey in a sense, because you're moving things around, you're using these templates to figure out if anything's in your firing range or not, and it's just too loose for me at least, right? It's very thematic, don't get me wrong, but it's just something I don't enjoy. And usually for games that employ it, like X-wing, it is so central to the gameplay that that's what the game is about, right?
Yeah, I rarely and measuring in general, I rarely am into it. It's just a step further than I want to go. Like, give me squares,
Yeah,
give me squares, give me hexes, whatever.
give me a board. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there are some games that have done some interesting things. Like you think about, is it Star Trek Expeditions or Fleet Captains? I'm sorry, I'm gonna get this name wrong, but it's whatever. It's very much like your Shiver Me Timbers you talked about, where you sort of build that board out of the nodes,
Mhm.
and that connects things. I don't mind that at all because it's simplifying those, where I can move and what I can do. But whenever I've got to take the template out, I don't dig that.
Yeah. All right. What's the next one? What's the next one?
Okay, so I only got two more here. So the next one is one that can be done very good or very bad, and that is blind bidding. Now you talked about Ankh Gods of Egypt being your favorite game in that series. It has an aspect of that too. Whenever you play the plague cards, right?
Mhm.
Because you are bidding followers, if I recall, and you reveal, and whoever's got the most um, wins
Gets
that
it wins.
battle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Now, do both sides lose all of the followers they bid?
yeah, yeah. Everybody loses it, and it's funny you say that. That is my least favorite
Ah,
part of
okay.
now. When I say it's my favorite of the three games, I don't love it. I'm glad Matt has it. I wouldn't buy it,
Mhm.
but yeah, I don't. That one mechanic and Rising Sun has something like that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't like that because it's so central to what's going to happen. Now, there's a game that I'm gonna get you to play in a few months before it hits Kickstarter called Lunar Rush coming, which has a bidding mechanic which doesn't bother me,
Mm.
and you're doing a bid at the very beginning, like you're bidding your points, and you're going to bid your points to get first choice on something.
Mhm.
Beginning of the turn is done, boom, move on. But something about it for me, in the middle of the game, we're going to stop and do this bidding thing, and I'm just going to lose.
That's you hit it on the head, Will.
Yeah,
I'm losing resources
and
either
I'm going
for
to get
something
nothing.
or for
I'm going to get
nothing.
nothing. Yes, and if I'm going to bid, at least let me still get something. And so, like this game, Lunar Rush, like you're
Right.
still going to get a spot. It just might not be
Right.
as high a spot. You're going to get something. And I think that's probably it. I might as well just set this board on fire because I've just given it away for nothing.
Yeah, that's so I think you hit it on the head, right? Whenever you're bidding that way for turn order, something, you're getting something for it. Whenever you're bidding in, the plague cards for, and to be honest, I don't mind them that much. It's just an example. It's not so central to the game that like I said, I like Ankh overall. It's just this particular aspect because I'm giving away resources and getting nothing in return, and it's quite a bit of a guessing game. That's the point, right? It builds suspense. But yeah, some people dig it, not me so much.
All right.
And the last thing,
what's
the
your
last
last one?
mechanic here, yeah, this is the biggest one. I can't remember ever really enjoying a game that had this mechanic. And every game that has this mechanic, it seems to be central to that game, and that's real time actions. So games like Escape um, or Project Elite, where you are rolling dice and very furiously trying to do things and move things and whatever. The problem I have with that, it's so easy to, if it's a competitive game, for someone to cheat, you have no idea, and maybe they don't have an idea, right? Most people we play with, they're all of noble intent, but they could mess up and nobody knows, right? If it's a cooperative game, I also don't want to, I look down, it's like, okay, we just won. I have no idea if we did it all correctly, right? Um, so it seems like you lose a little bit of the tightness of the game by laying this real time aspect on top of it.
Yeah, that's one where, like with the take that and betrayal aspects, I like it if that's what the game's about. Like right here next to me, I
Mhm.
got this game here about building meat skewers. It's a real time dexterity game, but that's the whole game. Like we're going to race. Who builds a skewer? Oh, stop the clock. Done. Your skewer's garbage. That's not right. Keep going. But yeah, I don't own Project Elite. I don't any of those things. I just don't. If I want to play a real time game, I'll play that, or I'll get play Stay Cool or something like that. Which is
Yeah,
that's all it's about. Yeah, so I'm with you on that one.
yeah. Anyway, that's my list. I've left off a bunch of things here, but again, each of these are
Everybody, he's
either
left
tied
off
to
80% of his list.
these are either tied to things that you said, or they're they just can be done wrong in games, which is almost every mechanic, right?
Yeah. Though I will say, it looks like you got Take That on there like 3 times. So you really don't like Take That.
I really don't like Take That.
No, maybe twice. Okay, so everybody, I think this is actually the last time we're going to see this next particular Sovereignty commercial. Again, thank you to Sovereignty for sponsoring not only the podcast, but now the whole channel. And if you want to check out the digital gaming platform, down in the comments, there is a free 60-day platinum membership. Though you can also sign up for free, but the platinum, everyone wants platinum, right? Don wants some platinum.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
telling him free platinum. He's thinking about signing up. He doesn't even know what it is. He's thinking of signing up.
exactly.
So check that out and enjoy the maybe last time for this commercial. Boom. And now, a word from our sponsor. Play some games?
I just can't play games with you today.
Not tonight. They just dropped Far Cry 6 and I need to get into that.
Yeah, nah, mate. Sorry, I gotta put those prawns in the barbie. No.
No.
I don't think we can.
There's a football game on, right?
Yeah, we gotta play football.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
But I've got that really important unboxing of Spider-Man Uno. Look, it says it's fast and fun for everyone.
I wish I could, but I have rehearsal.
I would, just one small problem. You're 5,000 miles away.
Yeah, sorry, man. I can't. I'm heading over to the Milk Shack today. They are having a sale to die for.
Tonight's the night for my noggin waxing.
Sorry, I can't. I have to water my artificial plants.
I guess no one wants to play games with me.
Hey, you want to play some board games?
Well, how do I do that?
There's a whole community of people waiting to play with you.
Really? I can come right now?
Right now, but particularly on Tuesday nights.
Okay, let's go! Sovereignty. Play board games in a 3D environment on any device. Play smarter. You can find more information about Sovereignty in the description of this podcast or video. All right, everybody, welcome back. And now we're going to move into our review game. I know it feels like we've already reviewed like 30 games, but we're actually going to dig a little bit deep into Root from Leader Games. Now, this is one that's been out for a while, and the fun thing about this, or funny or sad, I don't know how you want to put it, is Don is actually the 5th person who said we can talk about Root, but he is the first one to not cancel. So here
Oh,
we
look at
are.
that.
Yeah, it's been going a long time.
Really?
So you're not even batting cleanup here, Don. I don't even know what they call that.
Whatever fifth place is.
Yeah. But so Root, for anybody who doesn't know, Root is a area control troops on a map style game. I don't quite know what coin games means, a counterinsurgency, but everyone always says that it's one of those. I don't quite know how that works. But you are a woodland faction, and now with the coming expansion, what I think is coming in March or May, something like that. I think there's 10 different factions that you can play of these woodland animals. All of them play completely differently outside of the core game of you kill somebody's token and you get a point, and first person to 30 points is going to win, usually. And it is intensely popular. Everyone loves this game. It's a very challenging game to learn because, like I said, each of these factions are completely different. You might have one, the Birds, which are a programmer game, and you have to do these different things each turn or your whole engine's just going to break down on you. Or maybe you are the Vagabond, which just has one unit and is running all over the place helping everybody until they want to, well, turn on them and start killing them, or until someone turns on the Vagabond. Or maybe you are going to be the Otters, who are literally going to be running a market and trying to convince people to buy their crap throughout the game because it'll help them while helping you more, and so on and so on and so on. And I'll let you kind of start on this, Don. Well, what do you like about Root?
Yeah, I like the fact that. So first of all, I think it's amazing that Cole Worley has been able to take a counterinsurgency war game, which is really what this is, right? A counterinsurgency war game, and laid this layer of fur on top of it, right? This woodland creature layer of fur to make it all cute. And suddenly it's this very popular game. I think that popularity is well deserved because, as you said, each of the faction plays differently. And that asymmetry I find intriguing from a balance point of view, right? That each of them has a chance to win, even though they all play completely differently within the the structured sequence of a turn.
The thing that's interesting about the asymmetry to me is anybody you talk to that's played a lot of this game is going to have a different faction. That one is their favorite, and two, that is the overpowered one, which
That's
I
right.
find fascinating. And I think that
Yeah.
is and they go through, they make lots of balance changes. There's constantly they selling and giving you stickers and reprint this and whatever. But everybody I know has a different one that they think is overpowered, which I think to me is a sign of a pretty darn well balanced game, and shows that the asymmetry is done right, because I feel like what it's doing is it's speaking to different personality types of what type of game you want to be. Like if you just want to be straight up aggressive and go get them real quick, you can play the cats, right? If you want to play the long game, you're going to play the lizards or the otters or something. You take your time, and I think that is a fantastic bit about the game. With the core game is relatively simple.
Mhm.
I mean, you have to have more troops to leave a space to move to another connecting space. You're going to fight, roll 2 dice, done. Build some stuff, whatever it is you're going to do. Of course, it is super cute. And I have
Yeah.
in my age, I have suddenly developed a huge love for anthropomorphic animals. I don't know why, but man, you put anthropomorphic animal in there, I'm in. I'm sold.
So that was one of the things that actually turned me off to this game originally. But then after I played it, the gameplay sold me on it. And even more, it's like I started to like it because I like the gameplay so much, right? The affection I had for the gameplay bled over into the anthropomorphic animal aspect of it.
And now you found yourself going to furry conventions. That's interesting.
Not quite. Not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the fact you hit it on the head, I think, which each of these faction types sort of appeal to different types of personalities, right? You think about the Marquis de Cat in the base game, and they start ahead militarily, right? They own stuff. They are the military industrial complex. Now, I don't find any affinity for that because I don't particularly enjoy, not that I haven't played the Marquis de Cat, I have, and I like it, but given my choice, I'd rather play something else because it's this idea of starting strong and simply trying to hang on to my territory while I'm being nipped at by all these other factions, that is not the most attractive thing to me. The vagabond to me is the most attractive thing because I think about the vagabond sort of like a little raccoon Batman, right? He's ducking in and out of all these other factions, and he's helping here and hurting there, and he's manipulating all of them to try to give himself an advantage. And I love the fact that once you've played it a few times, you see these underlying strategies you can take. The vagabond can get so much affinity with your faction that basically he will march your faction pieces out of a spot that's very important to you to deny you something. So it's almost like he's turned your troops into his troops. And that's just very intriguing to me, right? You talk about the Woodland Alliance.
Yeah, well, before you go off on the
they're all so
vagabond,
different.
so one of the things, that's the cuteness of the game is playing into your part, because I've played multiple games at conventions where we taught somebody and there was someone as the vagabond, and they were going through and we would stop and say, we try to give some broad tips at the beginning, and one of the tips we always give is, everybody, you have to punch the vagabond in the face or they will win. Like, period. Like, you don't have to do it all the time, but everyone, you gotta punch him in the face a little bit. People are like, oh, but he's so cute. We're like, no, it's not. It's not cute.
He's giving me all these nice things.
But it's true, and in the way people play in the table talk. I know you like table talk.
Oh, I love it.
That can play such a huge part in it, especially like with the vagabond, of just kind of convincing people. There's only one of me. There's 57 cats on the table. Come on,
right, exactly. Go after the big guy.
Yeah,
and they're right. You said that you gotta make sure you hit the vagabond. I could say the same thing about the Woodland Alliance, because the Woodland Alliance, they're the guerrilla faction, right?
Yep.
They're sort of the revolutionaries amongst the woodland populace that are building up power very quietly behind the scenes. It's hard to directly attack them because one of the things is when you roll the 2 dice for them, they take the higher of the 2 dice.
Yep.
So it's very, very difficult to beat them because it's guerrilla warfare. They are simply fighting on a different terrain landscape, mission terrain than you are.
Yeah.
And they build up very slowly.
Yeah. Well, in the core box, the Woodland Alliance is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yeah, just they're just so chaotic, and you can just kind of pop up everywhere. On the flip side, in the core game, the birds are my least favorite. Let me tell you, my brain does not work on the birds.
They're my second favorite. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Well,
so why do you not like them? Or why do they not draw you?
I'm so bad at it. It's that long-term thinking. I just can't. Just give me my chaos. Give me my chaos. That is so orderly and so my brother Steve, who is very much he's like you. He's a math science kind of brain guy. He can do all that math stuff. Like beyond my times tens, right? Mm-hmm. And so he can plan that out and he can figure it out. But for me, I'm like, okay, this will go here, and okay, that's good enough. But you can't do that, or you're gonna lose.
And the thing is, after playing the Eyrie, which is the faction name, right, of the birds, we call them the birds, but the Eyrie, it's all about doing what you need to do and expanding, but not leaving yourself vulnerable to someone subverting the program that you're laying out, because you're going to have to
very fragile.
Add to it. It is very fragile to the point where you look down. I've played them plenty of times where I look down like, oh no, if this player attacks me in this one spot and they're almost sure to win, my complete program is going to fall apart. And there's this delicious tension of waiting to see what they're going to do. And most of the time, I will say, a satisfaction with, they didn't see it. They're not doing that. They're doing something else. So this fragility, as you said, associated with them, that adds to a lot of enjoyment for me for playing that faction.
Yeah. And it's even, it is so fragile though. There's times when it can be literally, if I just move one animal to this one place, I don't have to do anything. Just move one. Your whole empire collapses and your leader gets fired, which to watch happen is amazing. But it's like, oh my gosh, for me, it's so frustrating. But we were talking about it so now, but think about all the different factions out there. Which ones are your favorites out of all of them? We were just talking the core box a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've only played the core box, but I'm very drawn to the is it the otters, the ones that move up and down the river and sell
Yep.
things? They put things for
Mhm.
sale. I'm very intrigued by them. Maybe I did play one game with them.
Well,
Uh,
so the fun thing about the otters is, and so the otters are very fragile, I think, if depending on who's around the table.
mhm.
Because so my buddy Matt, for the most part, if I'm playing the otters, he just is like, I'm not buying.
Oh yeah,
Period. He's not gonna do it. And so that they are very dependent on getting other people to kind of get to give them stuff. And it's the balance of trying to make it attractive enough to them or being able to predict. So you as the playing the Irie, I can see if I can figure out what that one fragile thing is and make sure that I've mucked it up. But hey, for just four of your workers here, you could buy this card for me, which would fix it. I'm not telling you what to do, Don, but if you
right.
don't want your empire to collapse, you can do this at top dollar. So it's got that fun, but you have to have a table that will play that game.
Yeah, I agree with you. The game can break in these instances where 3/4 of the table agree to simply not allow that last faction any traction. So, for instance, they say, okay, we just won't buy. Nobody buys, and they can't get it, then we don't have to worry about that faction. That's a possibility. Now, I think that's playing against um, the spirit of the game a little bit. So I
Yeah,
would hope that most groups don't do that. But as far as from a rules lawyer point of view, it can be done.
yeah.
The Woodland Alliance is the same way. If you just pop the Woodland Alliance every time, you know, they survive and thrive on you sort of ignoring them a little too long.
Yep. Yeah,
Suddenly they're
you ignore it.
powerful.
You are one turn too long, and suddenly they
That's
got a
right.
foothold, and it's annoying.
It's like, oh, we let them get a little too far, and now they're ahead, and it's this. I can't control this snowball now.
Yep.
But
And
if
then
you
there's the
simply
fun
pop
bit
every
of you're
turn,
trying to get
it can't
everyone
be
else around
done.
the table to stop messing with me right now while we deal with these stupid mice. You
Right.
know,
And you say, this cat, the military industrial complex, is simply out of control. Why are you worried about me? We're peaceful people. Again, until I find a rock.
yep. And I think my favorite of all of them though is the lizards.
I thought they
They
were relatively underpowered compared to others. Maybe they've errated that and fixed that a
Yeah,
little bit.
they got a little
Okay.
bit of a boost, and a big part of it is the theme behind the lizards is so off the dang wall. There's this little cult, and
Yeah.
suddenly I'm literally gonna turn your bird into a lizard. I don't know how that works, but I did it. Like
That's
now you
cool.
are a lizard, and they're very stagnant. It's very hard to move them around because the rules are very clear on they get to choose where they move and what happens based on the cards everybody else around the table has played. And so all these cards come to them and it moves around this little, it's called the outcast, and whatever clearing color is the most cards they've got, and that's where they can move and do stuff. But it's very challenging. And they put out these gardens that mean they always dominate, which is a nightmare for the Irie. It,
From a movement point of view, I would
Mhm.
imagine, yeah.
Yeah. But it's just so funny to me, these lizards that it's like, it's like the creepy Jehovah's Witness of the forest. Like
It's just good. I do like these cultists that are just popping up all over the place causing problems. I like that theme, to be honest.
yeah,
So maybe the lizards, now that they've bumped them up a little bit, will be one of my
yeah,
favorite factions. I
I
need to
think you
play it
need
and
to
get
I
some
think you
more.
need to go out and get the other factions that are out there because it really does add and the newest ones that are out, the moles, to have this like they literally tunnel up out of the ground, they just show up everywhere and they have these the nobles or whatever that you're putting out there. They're getting more abilities, but they're taking stuff away. And then you have the crows, which are crazy pants. Like they put these little tokens out all over the board. And if you can come to my token and guess what's underneath it, I just lose it.
Oh,
Like it's just
wow.
gone. If you guess right. But if you don't, things happen. And all of them, and I've also played online, the warlords and the badgers, I don't know, whatever, the rats and the badgers, I think are the new ones. I don't know. But all of them are equally different,
Mhm.
which is gives the game a lot of replay, I think, and a built-in handicap. So for me, if I'm not very good at the game, but if I'm playing against people who've never played, I'll play the Irie, and we'll be on even footing. Don't you worry.
Right, right.
So I think it really is a masterpiece of asymmetricness. But I will say, I like Mysterious Manor more.
Oh, really? Still have yet to play that. Oh man, I
To
need to
your
play that.
shame. Now,
I know. It's
Mysterious Manor is far more fragile.
really.
Oh, very much so, because you're able to ignore some people on the board.
Mm.
So if I'm playing the Warlock, I don't care what the spider's doing. Like, whatever, you do you. I'm going to leave you alone. That is somebody else's problem. But so if you have someone in there that just can't figure out what's going on, like if you are playing the paladin or whatever, and you need to pay attention to what the spider's doing, and you don't because you get distracted, then you are guaranteed giving the game to the other. So it's much more fragile.
Okay.
It's much harder to learn because you're not even playing the same game.
Right.
But so for me, that's there because it's even more asymmetric. But let me tell you, Root is a game that I should not like.
Mhm.
I just shouldn't because I don't like that kind of game. It has all that stuff to where we can be working together and then you're going to stab me in the back. It's got to take that cards in there. Got everything that we've been complaining about. Yet it is so well crafted that it just works. For
Yeah.
me.
And not. I don't think I'm very different in that regard. I think with you, like you, it's like I don't know that this type of game really draws me, but something about this one does. It's hard to teach because you've got to teach 4 different games,
Yep.
but the satisfaction associated with how that game plays out every time is very much worth that teach to me. Not a fan of the anthropomorphic overlay.
You're
But
coming
I don't mind
around.
it. Yeah, I
You're
don't mind
coming
it now.
around.
I'll tell you one thing I really like a lot, and that's most of the games seem to end with this race to the 30 points. But there is an alternative win condition, and there are these cards, these dominance cards you lay down. They basically say, control these different areas, this subset of the areas. The trick is you have to play those and then have that, whatever that is, satisfied at the beginning of your next turn or in your following turns, right? And so everybody gets a chance to sort of stop you. So the trick there is to get that card, manipulate the board in a way where you can, sort of semi-announce by playing the card that's what you're looking to do, and then deny other people the ability to stop you before the beginning of your next turn. And I always like those alternative end conditions where there's always this curveball that can come in and change things up because it allows another opportunity for a clever play.
Right.
And even if you lose to those clever plays, you enjoy it because you admire the cleverness of it, right? And just those small type things that Cole Worley did just make this game magical.
Yeah, it's really really cleverly done, and there's also a very well done solo co-op mode that
Mhm.
exists, and it's a little more complicated than I like because it's a flow chart, I guess, and each one's very different, but it works really really well. It's out there, so people who are like, I don't know, but the solo co-op's really good. It's got a good app out that
Oh
was
yeah,
a really good way to learn the game. So
and a good Steam game that's out as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
Steam
That's what I
version of
meant.
it.
Yeah,
Oh, is that what you're talking about?
yeah.
Yeah, that's very good, very well done.
Yeah. But so, no hot takes here. We both like it.
Yeah.
And well, I guess the hot take is that you're now a furry, I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Let's start with Otter and work our way up.
Wow. I would have thought otter was the top, but your top is lizard.
So maybe that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to send it to the leader of the cult. That'd be great.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping you are the leader. Now, the last thing we want to say, we're going to take a quick break. So, as we mentioned a couple times briefly in passing, so Don is part of the Secret Cabal, and they've been on hiatus for a bit, and that's because their fearless leader is having some health problems. And I know for myself, I've listened to Secret Cabal for several years, about a year or two before Don came on, and even despite that, I've stayed listening. But so I know for myself, I really like to just wish everybody all the best. But I want to give Don a chance to just talk a little bit about what's going on, what's happening, and beyond well wishes and listening to all the stuff. How if you're concerned, how you can get information and all that about what's happening.
Yep. And Jamie's been quite open about this. So Jamie Kagi, who was one of the original founders, and is it's his job to produce the podcast, right? Because we have an annual Kickstarter. Just threw a little bit of a wrinkle into that as well. Anyway, he found out around Christmas time that he had a growth in his esophagus. He found that because he had been for the last few months, even back to Origins, having difficulty breathing. And it's because that growth was growing and pushing onto his left lung, I believe, which was putting a lot of stress there. Infection was building up, that type of thing. And And it got so bad around Christmas time that his wife took him to the hospital because he was having a lot of difficulty breathing. At different various times, they had thought it was potentially COVID. He got tested; it was not COVID or anything like that. And so they found out that this growth was there and it was pushing. And unfortunately, he found out in short order behind that that growth was cancer. So that's definitely not the news that you want to get, either as Jamie himself or as one of his close friends. That there was some silver lining there, and that is that the doctors felt that they could do some aggressive treatment and would be successful. And knock on wood, that is going well. And we are about a month and a half past that original diagnosis, and he's currently undergoing radiation treatment, chemotherapy to shrink that mass so that they can remove it. They are very confident that when they remove it, he will be cancer free and well back on the road to recovery. But of course, the radiation treatments, the chemotherapy, the growth and the effect on his breathing capabilities itself, all that stuff has put him into a condition where he just doesn't have the energy to produce the podcast right now. So we're on a bit of a hiatus, but we have every belief that hiatus will be a brief one, even if it doesn't feel so brief to the listeners or us. But we hope to be back, as Jamie would say and has said, back and better than ever very soon. So we are really looking forward to the next time that we get together with Jamie at the helm and record another episode of the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. But we anticipate that is probably a couple months out, because right now where he's at in the treatment is like I said, he's I think he has about another week of radiation treatments, and then they're going to talk about the aggressive plan to excise this growth and cut that thing out, and then he's going to have to heal from that a bit. So we're talking some weeks or months out before he can get back to back to full health. The rest of the founders, we're waiting patiently and lovingly for that to happen. We're looking forward to all of us getting back together and producing more podcasts. So if you want information on how Jamie's doing and what's kind of going on, you can go to the Board Game Geek forum. It's the Secret Cabal forum, which is forum number 1145 on Board Game Geek. There's a long thread of well wishes for Jamie, as well as updates that he's provided. Further, you can follow us on Facebook. And again, you just search for the Secret Cabal Gaming Podcast. It should be the first thing that pops up. And he has posted, I should say, updates there, and also a short update, which is there to listen to. And it basically goes through what I told you about earlier, about that this whole this thing Jamie's going through and kind of where he's at in the treatment at a given time. So always looking for prayers, well wishes, good thoughts, whatever you can provide. And he appreciates that very much, as he appreciates hearing from all the Kabbalists that are very anxious for not only for there to be more Secret Cabal content, which there will be, but also anxious for Jamie to get better at it. It's to be honest, it's a very loving community that of the Secret Cabal listeners, and they have definitely let their love for Jamie be known. It's very, very much appreciated. So that's the situation with the Secret Cabal. We expect to be back relatively soon, even though it may not feel very soon right now.
All right. Well, thank Don. I know we're all wishing him the best. And again, anybody down there, go find him on Facebook. You can leave your thoughts and everything, and I'm certain that is appreciated. Or if you want to just help out, you can find Don and send him games that he needs to buy, recommendations. And I'm sure Jamie will appreciate Don being a junkie as well.
Don't worry, we're all staying in touch. And Jamie and I are even. I noticed just a few days ago that he had back to Kickstarter, and I just sent him a quick text and said, "Man, I love to see you back Kickstarter." He's like, "Yeah," he says, "I'm dying to get back to it." So he's definitely, his mind is there, and hopefully physically we can get around the table relatively soon, play some games, and share our love for those games and our experiences with the Kabbalists.
All right, so we have reached the end of a longer than usual episode, but that is okay by me. And so, Don, now I hope you remember what you said last time, because you can't repeat it. Leave us with your words of gaming wisdom. I'm going to stop you if you start repeating, because I remember.
Do you really? My words of gaming wisdom. So I think my words of gaming wisdom this time will be very brief, and they will be: there is no greater joy that a board gamer can have than finding the hungry gamer, Will, and playing a game that does not normally have betrayal in it, and just betraying the hell out of him at some point that he does not see coming. And then when he looks so angry, just look at him and say, "Don't you love board games?" And you have to admit he does.
I can't wait to see you at Origins now.
That's right.
I'm going to be watching you like a hawk. Whoa, wait. Why are you moving that cube? What does that mean? What does that mean? It's gonna be the longest game ever. The analysis paralysis is gonna be so deep on me.
It's gonna be great. Talk about the meta game.
Yeah, you started messing with me 6 months before the game.
That's right.
All right, but anyhow, Don, thank you so much for joining me yet again. Everybody, you can find links down in the description of the podcast or video, whichever way you're consuming this, where you can find links to Secret Cabal so you can check them out. Subscribe on whatever your podcast app is and all of that. As always, Don, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thanks for having me. Have a good one. Kids, it's hard to keep them digging their nose and then touching their buddy, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm from lower Alabama. I mean, we're like 10 miles from Florida, so yeah, I get it, man. Y'all
We're
awesome
gonna talk about
podcasters.
all of it.
Okay, happy to do that.
I just figured you were going through withdrawal.
I am a little bit, man. I'm looking forward to talking about that. I don't want to ruin it though. Now I got a sticker, everything. My buddy Will's sticker. I'm full of Chris Miller. My buddy Will's got it. I got to get it. So I don't believe in Bigfoot at all. But the shows fascinate the hell out of me. So that game is great. The game is so damn good, Will.